Welcome to New Friends Cinema,
where we get to know each other by sharing our favorite movies.
From childhood throwbacks to recent comforts, we walk through the stories together.
Keep in mind this podcast contains mad spoilers, and join us at the New Friends Cinema. Hello and welcome back to New Friends Cinema. I'm Courtney.
I'm Dakota.
Ooh, and we are excited to be here today.
I don't think we've ever jumped into it this fast before.
We were chit-chatting, we were riff-rapping, and I said, no, we got it. We got to dive in.
This is gold.
Comedy, chemistry, gold.
Camaraderie.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I love C words.
Yeah. That
All
little
of them.
wink. I'm so excited about the movie today. I fully feel like I went back to school.
Oh.
You're gonna
Oh.
I'm gonna come with some very, for me, fun knowledge.
Excellent. I'm excited.
For others, maybe not, but.
Well, they have to go along for the ride anyways. But straight up, how are you doing?
I'm good.
For our listeners. I know how you're doing,
Yeah.
but they need to know how you're doing.
I'm good. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, today's a good day.
Yeah. Sun is shining.
So-
The sky was blue for a second.
Yeah, it was like, I had both of my windows down when I was running errands
Ooh.
earlier.
I love windows down.
But then I got a very sudden chill. Because it was pretty much
Mhm.
instant. It was like, the sun went away and I was like,
No.
how are you?
I'm good. I had a busy morning.
Mhm.
Had 3 clients. I went to the bakery before I came up and I brought some treats. I'm so excited. Because, who doesn't love a good cupcake?
Well, and Epiphany's exceptional. Their
Oh.
cake is so good.
So good.
That's where Prob always gets my birthday cakes.
As one should, really.
And my favorite combination is chocolate cake with raspberry, like, jelly or raspberry filling. So,
And you know I got that
Yeah.
one.
yeah.
I didn't know, but I knew.
Yeah. Because I love chocolate with, like, pink.
It's a great
Icing.
combo.
Yeah.
Mm.
Pink flavor.
Mm-hmm. And what goes better with chocolate than like raspberry?
I don't know.
Peanut butter?
It's my favorite. No, I don't like peanut butter and chocolate together.
What?
No, I don't. I like chocolate and I like peanut butter. You didn't know this about me?
I think I might have to leave.
No.
Like,
Here's why. The
Okay.
reason is because I think that they're both stars. Chocolate and peanut butter are both, like, top tier flavors, and they're both
Okay.
so strong. And I feel like when they're together, they're fighting each other for dominance, and
but that's the pleasurable part.
I don't like it. It's too much on one side of my palate. For me, it's too much on one side.
Like you said
That's
last
why
time,
I
too
like-
many.
Yeah, doing the same similar job.
Mm.
That's why I like chocolate with raspberry, because raspberry's so tart.
Sweet,
So
sweet.
chocolate, it's like sweet, but it's like two different sides of sweet.
Whereas chocolate peanut butter is sweet with like a
They're
punch
both
in the
like
face.
innately nutty in a way, you know?
Nutty.
Yeah, like isn't chocolate kind of nutty?
It's more of like a bean.
See?
I
And
suppose.
peanuts are legumes. Peanuts are not nuts, they're legumes.
She's like pointing aggressively at me. She's like, peanuts are legumes. Okay, but let us know if you are team chocolate peanut butter
Yeah,
or not.
am I alone on this? Like, I'm not ever gonna look down on someone for enjoying chocolate and peanut butter together. That's
No.
not, and if someone is like, has made something that's chocolate and peanut butter and brought it, I'm not gonna be like,
Ugh.
not eat it. You know what I mean? But I'm not going out of my way to seek that combination of flavor. It's not something I really enjoy.
See, me, the way you described it, they're 2 stars, and when they come together, it's the all-stars. It's like, they bring out the best in each other.
Yeah,
in my
but
opinion.
there can only be one.
There can only be one.
You know?
Fair. Okay.
Anyway.
Noted. Just like in the back of my brain.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But I love peanut butter. I love chocolate.
Oh,
Yeah. That
it's like
derailed.
settling, but it's just like settling in me, and that's okay. We're all allowed to be different.
Is
And I
that-
think bodies are different too, because you might be tasting something entirely, it's like the cilantro paradox, right? Like,
you just don't know. You can never truly understand someone else's experience.
no,
You never can.
but empathy
Like the other
allows
day,
us to try.
that's true. Like the other day, your shirt was gray.
It was green.
See? I'm just saying. Who knows what is categorically true?
Nothing is true.
Nothing is real. Everything we see is an illusion. We exist like a full second in the past at all times, right? We are constantly just reacting to sensory.
Oh.
Is this a metaphysical podcast now?
Well, now it is. Goodness.
Okay.
I gotta like ground back on earth here. Okay. Today's movie.
Yeah.
Is super exciting because Dakota and I have been steadfast in the sense of pulling from the hat, letting fate decide what we watch and share and discuss. But we decided that our last pick, which means today is my last pick
for the season,
I get to choose.
Yeah, and it's kind of a nice way to tie a bow on our first season, I think.
Yeah.
And I will love to return to the hat for
course.
Next season, because it's so fun. You just don't know.
It's sacred.
Yeah.
I love it.
But something about it being the last episode each and just like getting to have more control in what story you want to tell, and like the finale has to be spectacular.
And
right?
One must then feel excited. So, this week, Dakota and I watched the 1999 epic adventure action romance. Sure. The Mummy.
The Mummy.
The Mummy. I know I'm preaching to the choir for many folks who listen, but this movie, it has and will always have this like death grip on my heart because it just is so, it's another great movie. Yeah.
And how horny were you?
Oh, by panic throughout the entire.
Even watching
saga.
It last night, I was like, oh my god. So, everywhere you turn.
The amount of applause, I'm like, oh my god, that is a handsome motherfucker. And then I was like, Rachel Weisz, the gorgeous, like, plump, angelic.
I always wanted to have that hair when I was a kid. That, like,
you do though.
Old school, no, but like with the curly around the front, the curly bangs and like the long hair. I always wanted to have that.
Ugh. Very attractive people in
Maybe
this
if
movie.
I just got a perm just on the front, then I would have that.
100% endorse this. I think Rachel Weisz would also agree that is the best choice.
It's a look. It's totally a look.
It's a look. So this iconic movie, action adventure, written and directed by Stephen Sommers. It is, funny enough, a remake of a 1932 film of the same name. I looked it up, and elements of this movie obviously were, recreated, but they took liberties with the story.
And the guy who directed last week's movie, who wrote Jurassic Park, he helped with this screenplay too.
Really?
I can't remember his name right now.
The threads.
Yeah.
They are tying together. Ugh. Okay, so filming took place in Morocco, the UK, and the entire crew endured some pretty difficult hardships such as dehydration, sandstorms, and snakes. Just like all in and around, which I thought was a fun fact for this, as they were filming in the Sahara Desert. Despite mixed reviews, which, pardon me, who the fuck has anything negative to say about this, but it was a commercial success. So it was an $80 million budget to make. $416.4 million at the box office.
Nice. I feel like that does kind of happen a lot though, where it's like critically panned, but the critics are not in contact with what like actual regular human people want to see.
Exactly.
Right?
Like, I think there's this element of critique, obviously, that the critics have, hence the name critics. But like you said, they're looking at it through the lens of maybe some like elemental stylistic sticks up their butt, whereas we are like, this is entertaining as fuck and I'm into it.
Am I having fun? Yes?
Yes? Solid.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
So, not only is this movie a cult classic, it was the first movie that's inspired a franchise, essentially. There were multiple sequels, animated series, and spin-offs that include our dear friend Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's premiere debut, The Scorpion King. And we've already mentioned that, so I feel like we're coming full fucking circle with this.
Yeah.
And recently, in 2017.
I don't know why they had to do this to us, though. Okay, some people do.
Go off.
I can't even, I'm so upset. Because I was so excited they were doing it, and then they put fucking Tom Cruise in the lead.
Oh boy, oh boy.
For why?
Boy.
For whom? First of all, he's too old. I don't care, I'll say it. Second of all, he's an evil overlord. Scientologists are gonna be after me now. I don't care. You have to know some nasty, nasty shit to be that high up.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? He's not my Rick.
He's not your Rick, no. And they could have left it alone. There's also this phenomenon
I honestly
of
might have to cut that.
Fair enough.
I am like legit afraid of Tom Cruise and the Scientologist.
Okay, so let's pause.
But it's true.
They could have left it alone. They could have just let it be.
where is Shelley Miscavige?
That's another podcast.
He knows.
Okay, I'll have to cut that too. So, according to my Googling, various characters, people, places, elements of ancient Egypt were kind of spliced together. She's getting ready.
We're about to go back to school, folks, when it's my turn.
I know that I am speaking to you particularly because you are one of those kids that got hardcore into ancient Egypt, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, on a pretty surface level, though, as any kind of, like, disconnected Western kid could, like, through what we had access to, and also really through, like, especially, like, at that time period, all of the documentaries and all the media we're really given is totally still through that, like, colonizer POV.
Yeah.
So, yes, in a way, but, like, not really.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
But essentially, the timing is off. The location of Thebes and
I have some stuff.
The Sphinx. But Imhotep was a real person.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of these things are real. They're just mashed in together at a time period when they are very much not in the same time period.
Yeah. This movie is set, in 1290 BC, like the beginning stuff, right? Which would be the late period of language. So,
I suppose that's the disclaimer of that we are understanding that this is not entirely historically accurate.
Yeah. They hired a man named Stuart Tyson Smith, who is an Egyptologist, to assist with piecing things together for the film.
Yeah.
And he also worked on Stargate, which we talked about last week too, which is crazy. But the thing is, like, for me, I think that, so in the beginning part of the movie, they're speaking some form of Coptic, basically, which is late stage ancient Egyptian language. They weren't speaking Coptic in Egypt until, like, after the AD. What do you call that now, right?
Yeah.
So what they would have been speaking at the time of the mummy is, like, 3 stages of language before that. And there isn't really any way for us to know for sure how they would have sounded because the language is written without the use of vowels. It's all consonants. So that's how, it's like how English has changed so much even in 100 years.
Totally.
Just the way people speak, it changes. So so they did their best in that way, but there are Coptic Catholic churches and people that still exist in Egypt. And it's believed that there are also people speaking Coptic in villages and stuff like that. So not only is there is like the religious aspect of there are people in churches speaking this language, but it is something that it's considered a dead language, but it does exist in some form.
Yeah.
Why they hired this white man to help them with the language is something that is like when there are people out there that have knowledge that is firsthand, like
totally
from lived experience.
Still going strong. Actually.
Is like, I don't know about that. So that's something I just really was like wanting to mention.
Yeah. And I think there are lots of elements of this movie that try to keep the integrity and accuracy of ancient Egypt, but obviously it's being retold by, white folks in modern time. So naturally there's going to be elements of bias and fetishisms and whatnot. But, this movie is accurate, but also incredibly inaccurate. Fair enough. It is also entertainment and fiction. But it's important to name.
Yeah, fun AF for sure.
Yeah. So I was 10 when this movie came out, and I remember going to the theater for it. Like, I remember, like, lining up and seeing, like, the poster, like, right outside where you go in. It was very much a hyperfixation rewatch for me. Like, it would be over and over and over again. Actually, it's quite funny. It's like, why didn't we fucking buy that movie for the amount of times we rented that movie?
Yeah.
It's like, at some point, like, we could have bought it, like, 10 rentals ago.
It paid for itself.
I was super into ancient Egypt, briefly after my obsession of ancient Greek and Roman gods as well. There's just like...
It's the dinosaur Egypt Rome pipeline.
I think I've told you this too, that my grandparents would travel all the time and they would go to Egypt a bunch.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I did not know this.
So my grandparents were artists, and so they would go and travel and create artwork based on what they've seen. I remember this one trinket they brought back for me one year, because they would bring back neat like dolls and artwork, but I have this like tiny blue scarab that they had brought back, And it's just a little token that, you know, reminds me of them because they were really interesting people. But also I just was so fascinated by how much they got to explore the world and go to really neat places.
I have a fun Egypt family story too.
Yeah.
My late auntie Judy, who was my papa's sister, she passed away from ALS years ago, but she never had children, and she traveled a ton, and she was just an amazing woman. She was a nurse, and
so cool.
She went to Egypt, and she brought back these incredible tables that were completely carved on top, and my auntie has them now in her house, but they're just like the most intricate, beautiful things.
Love it.
Yeah. She was iconic. My auntie,
I need to hear more stories.
Yeah, for sure.
In particular, Rachel Weisz's character, Evelyn, she was a really interesting blend of intellect, femininity, but also stubborn and adventurous and doesn't take shit.
So quirky.
So very, not like any other librarian, right? Like, of course, this movie is stacked with sexist tropes here and there, but I think for me as a kid at 10 watching this, it was just so refreshing at the time to see Evie as being like this complex character that did need saving a lot of the time, but she also defied a lot of it and was just her own person.
She was more than what people perceived her to be, and she was constantly trying to prove that.
Yeah.
She felt like she had to explain or prove to people why she was where she was and why she was who she was.
Yeah.
And that was really part of her struggle, and her journey was just to be able to be comfortable with who she was and what she had to offer, and to know that that was enough and it was valuable.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that was a big arc for her character.
And I think this is her story. Yes, Rick O'Connell is a big action character, but Evie is, I think, the main character. And we're following her as she goes through this saga.
Also, he's so dreamy. I don't care.
We will get into that. But this is going to be mad love for Brendan Fraser, mad love for this movie, Rachel Weisz, other people who are in it. But I love this movie for the adventure component of it, but it was also just like a steamy fucking cheeky banter romance. They were enemies to lovers, if you will.
Yeah. And it was pretty hot.
It was pretty hot.
Some of the arguments they were having, I was like, whoo! I wish Prob would fight with me like that.
Ooh.
A little bit. Just kidding.
But
please don't fight me.
But shall we?
I'm soft. Yeah. Fight? Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So, the movie opens in ancient Egypt. The POV pans across this beautiful landscape with the pyramids, the Sphinx, and Thebes, which are not in any way near each other whatsoever in real life. Large statues of Anubis stand tall in this massive, ornate city, and it's later revealed that it is the city of Thebes. And we are introduced to Imhotep, who is the pharaoh's high priest, and someone who has a fair amount of like power and sway. He's kind of a big deal.
He's thick too.
He is a handsome man. Yes.
He's
got some oomph to him.
Yeah, he's strong.
He's a strong man.
Yeah. Okay. So there's gonna be so much little girl giggling in this, so much blushing.
He's the keeper of the den. Like essentially he has the ear of the pharaoh. And we are then introduced to Anaxanomon, who is the pharaoh's mistress. Did I say that?
You said it so beautifully.
Oh, thank you.
I think I was like, what?
Anaxanomon. It's a beautiful name.
Yeah.
And she is also quite the beautiful creature. She's beautiful. And she's super off limits to everyone. No touchy. So she like trounces in to this main area where Imhotep is, like overlooking Thebes, and they have like this little like touchy not touchy face wave moment, and then they mac hard. And he grabs her and smudges her arm, like her shoulder, her body paint. And
yeah, because she's painted head to toe in gold with like black designs on her.
Yeah.
So,
and
that really takes that no touching to the next level of like you can physically see.
Oh yeah, there's proof. There's like evidence that no one's allowed to touch her. And they're macking. And I genuinely believe they love each other.
Oh, they love each other.
They're obsessed with each other.
We're going to talk about that as we go.
Across dimensions of life and death.
I might have some controversial opinions. I'm just saying.
Oh my god, you?
Who, me? Never.
So, as they mac, there's a little smudgy smudge, and the golden priests, who are kind of like Imhotep's lackeys, let's say, they're trying to close the doors.
I love when you say lackeys. You always say lackeys. Well, like, that's like our... No, I love it. Yeah, I love it. It's like, that's just the catch-all, yeah.
Well,
They are.
Yeah. They are there to do his bidding. And essentially they're trying to close the big-ass doors to give them a little bit of macking time. But...
So many right-hand men. Like, so many just, like, solid friends looking out, right?
And they're just doing their best. They know it's not right, but
he's the boss, right?
The boss. Mm-hmm. So as they try and close the doors, guess who busts in? The Pharaoh. He is on the hunt for Anoxenamon. Mm-hmm. Like, where's my gal? Mm-hmm. Very ownership.
Well, she's his favorite.
Objectification kind of thing. And she's not even, like, his main chick. Like, she's a side chick.
Yeah, she's his favorite side chick, yeah.
And he, like, comes in, and Imhotep, like, scurried away to hide, and Anoxenamon's just, like, sitting there, like, tapping on, like, a cat statue, and she's like, nothing's wrong, I'm not doing anything. Yeah. And he's like, who the fuck touched you? You can, like, see it. And conflict breaks out, and the Pharaoh's bodyguards essentially come in, and they essentially kill her.
And this is when they're speaking Coptic in the movie.
Yes. Yes. No, I totally fucked that up. That's not what happens.
What?
Imhotep. I'm skipping. Sorry. He's like, who the fuck touched you? And then, okay, wait, can we pause? Cause I need to keep going. Fuck. Okay. Imhotep is behind the Pharaoh, and is basically like, it was me. I touched her. And he stabs him.
They kill the Pharaoh.
They kill the Pharaoh first. Fuck. Apologies. I just got really wrapped up. And then the bodyguards bust through.
Yeah.
The golden priests pull Imhotep away just in time for the bodyguards to see Anoxenamon with the Pharaoh's dead body. And she's like, he will never fucking touch me again. I wrote it down. My body is no longer his temple, which is a badass last thing to say before you get murdered.
Yeah. I feel for them.
Yeah. So in order to avoid arrest or death, she kills herself, stabs herself in the stomach. And
that is a rank way to go.
That's painful. That's slow.
Don't stab yourself in the stomach, man.
That's slow.
Don't do that. The stuff seeps out. You're gonna die of sepsis before you fucking, like, yeah.
Ugh, gnarly. And so in the next scene, we see Imhotep and his priests, like, riding in the dead of night to the temple where her body is being kept, because they're going to steal her body from the crypt, take it to Hamunaptra. Put a little pin in that city, because we'll be back to that. So he's going to the city of the dead, Hamunaptra, to resurrect her. Mm-hmm. He's got a plan. He's got a mission. He's got his lackeys, and they are going to bring her back. They go deep into the city, deep into the tomb, to get the Black Book of the Dead to bring Anoxenamon back. They lay out, like, you know, the sacred jars that hold all of her intestines, because she's already been through the preparation for death, right? Like, that she had the jars with her intestines. Mm-hmm. They needed those to bring her soul back from the dead, so the body had to be whole. But Rutro, the bodyguards, followed them, the Pharaoh's bodyguards, and interrupted the ritual. And Imhotep is pissed off because he was on a mission. He had to bring his love back. Like, it was like, oh no, you're going to get caught, but it's okay. I have a plan. I'll just bring you back if you die. No big deal. But now it's, like, ultimately ruined. And now he is going to be, you know, paying some serious prices.
Yeah.
So
they
went in hard on that punishment. Yeah. So all of the golden priests that were there, the lackeys, they were mummified alive, which sounds terrible. And Imhotep was given a very specific, special punishment.
One that has not been given out before. Because it's too horrible.
It's too horrible. It's inhumane. But
more inhumane than mummifying someone alive.
Yeah, because not only are they destroying his body, or, like, through punishment, they're destroying his soul as well. Mm-hmm. So, tongue was cut out, wrapped up, eaten alive by scarabs in the sarcophagus. and then sealed away for all time, slowly being eaten to death. But he was also cursed in the process, so that, I'm gonna bungle this up, but essentially, if he were to ever come back, the earthly plane would be doomed to endure the horrors that he would bring forward, which seems like more of a curse for us than him.
Yeah, it's strange too. I don't know. I guess it kind of makes sense in like a Western way how they linked this so much to like history, like to Western religion, Christianity and stuff, because he's gonna bring the 10 plagues,
yes,
with him, right?
Totally.
Which is Bible stuff. It's
Bible
Old Testament shit.
Yeah. Abrahamic. So we see him getting sealed up, and the camera pans up to a large statue, I think of Anubis, and the statue is like looming over the tomb as he's buried underneath for eternity, or so they thought. And then we flash to Hamunaptra in 1923, which is 3,000 years later. And a battle is being fought on the area just outside Hamunaptra, which appears to be between, British-controlled forces and a local militia. Because according to the research, Egyptian independence from colonial reign happened in 1922. So I think they're kind of like working a little bit that in.
Like follow up from that, yeah.
Yeah. And the British forces are obviously still heavily involved in it.
Of course,
Egypt.
Yeah. We're can't keep their fucking fingers out of any pie.
You are just swinging today.
I'm swinging.
They're swinging hard. We are introduced to Benny, played by Kevin J. O'Connor, and Rick O'Connell, played by Brendan Fraser. The comeback king.
I love him.
I'm so happy.
I honestly get emotional thinking about it.
Yeah. He had a really fucked up.
They did him so dirty.
And they hurt him and then punished him for saying no. I
destroyed him. But they couldn't keep him down.
No.
He's not just a beautiful, beautiful person, but inside and out,
He's fantastically talented. And at the time, he was on fire. He was in everything. And then he just disappeared because of what we, alluded to. But
they fucked him up for sure.
Fucked him up real hard. So Benny and Rick are holding a line of military people as the counterforce approach on horseback.
Sorry, who's Benny?
Is it Benny or Benji? Benny
is
like
that?
the lackey.
Wait, hold on. Cool. I know who Benny is.
We know who Benny is. And Benny is kind of known to being a bit of a out for number one Benny, will do anything. And as they're holding the line, the general of the military has already booked it and left because he's like, this is scary, we're gonna die. And then Benny's like, me too, peace, I'm leaving.
His voice is giving Bartok.
A little high.
Yeah, like that, right?
So Benny freaks out, run away, and Rick rolls his eyes and he's like, fucking Benny again. There's a little history there. And he holds the line in the general's absence and making orders. And this man, Rick O'Connell, can shoot, he can run, he can dodge,
he's a cowboy.
Boom, boom, boom. He is suave and he is hitting the mark every single time. He had his rifle, boom, boom, boom. Out of bullets, boom, he pulls out 2 pistols and he's just double pistoling, whatever, double fisting, double pistoling. Different podcast.
Fisting those pistols.
And he's trying to dodge all of these men on horseback who are coming in.
I just realized I have a huge coffee and I haven't even taken one sip yet. I'm so sorry. I'm really excited.
Girl, get in there.
About this. Yeah.
Enjoy. So Rick is dodging, because now they're actually in Hamunaptra now.
When he's flopping around in the sand, I was just like, oh, his eyes, his holes.
Just from a
his
practical.
Holes must have been filthy. His face holes, I mean.
Who knows? Other holes might have been filthy
Might have
too.
been.
Who knows?
But I mean, just because they're open.
Yeah.
They're just open. And the sand is, I just was scratching my eyes.
No. So he is doing his best, and he's a military man, yes, but he's also very much like a ragtag, jack of all trades. I'm just gonna do my best to get out of the situation.
He's a cowboy, right?
He is a cowboy.
He's
that's exactly it. So Rick kind of runs into Hamunaptra, dodging here and there, and he sees Benny, and Benny closes the fucking door on him. He's
Classic Benny.
So he's cowardly
Classic.
and selfish. That's great. So Rick is then being chased down again and kind of like cornered him in an area in front of this large ass statue and the horses are spooked.
Yeah.
They realize where they are and they do that classic like and like run away.
Yeah.
And then
that horse noise though. That was like a cat.
You can always rely on accurate sound effects from me.
Here, yeah.
So Rick is like, what the fuck? They had me.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they? And then he hears like whispering in the background and yipping jackals. Like, yeah!
What? That was good, right?
It was great. Accurate? Not sure, but it was great.
Thank you.
And then some fucking sand has a life of its own.
It's like,
it is defying gravity. This is not some wind picking up the sand. This is some spooky ass motherfucking shit under the tomb doing this. And it creates like this sand face. This large ass face with indents, and it looks very scary.
Do you remember that like needles thing that people had back in the day?
Yeah.
And they would have big versions of it like at the science
where you would push
fair
your
whatever.
hand in.
But yeah, a lot of people had just the like small like notebook size one. And as a kid, you always put your face
Everybody
on
put
it.
their face on it.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I hope everybody else knows what you're talking about because it sounds weird. Needles on the face.
No, but they're not needles, but they're almost like
Pins.
they're pins that have like no sharp side.
Yeah.
And they're in like a rectangular thing where they
Box
can go back, they can go be imprinted on each side. So yeah, you push your face into one side and you leave a face imprint in the pins on the other side.
Everybody did that. Everybody's first instinct is, I want to put my face
I'm going to put my face in that.
A group within the group, let's say, of the local militia fighting the British forces are known as the Magi. And they are...
The ones with the wild hat?
Yeah. They are dressed in dark robes, and they have face markings, and they are overlooking the whole thing going down and not really getting involved until they have to.
We don't really have a lot of information about them, or do we?
We have a little bit of information other than the fact that they are just there to protect.
Yeah.
And they allude to that they are centuries and centuries.
I'm under the impression that they're bad guys for a significant part of this movie. Am I alone in that?
They're
or was I just not
cryptic.
listening?
They're cryptic. And we kind of get the impression that they have a mission. And we're not sure if that mission is a good mission or a bad mission.
Right.
I think that's fair.
Okay. Yeah, they're almost like a cult, kind of. Like, they're giving cult vibes in a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're not getting involved until they have to.
Yeah.
And they're overlooking as Rick manages to escape the battle. And the creature remains undiscovered. So we get the impression that they are there to make sure that this creature stays locked up in the tent. So now we flash forward 3 years, and we are in Cairo, Egypt, at the Museum of Antiquities, or Antiques. I couldn't remember. Antiquity sounds better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not Antiques Roadshow.
No. We are introduced to Evelyn. I cannot remember her last name, which is so great for this, but...
Oh, I just looked at it, but...
Well, she's played by Rachel Weisz. So
okay, this is something I am gonna say. Like, I have seen this movie, like, multiple times over the ages.
Mm-hmm.
I think last night was the first time I've watched it, and I really felt like I understood what was going on. And now we're sitting here, and I'm like, I don't think I understood what was going on, because you're giving me so much information that I didn't have. And I don't know, I would be curious to hear from other people if that's, like, a common experience with this movie, or if I'm just a little, like...
A little what?
Dumb? You know, because I just feel like, there's so much going on and so much action that I have a really hard time processing what is really relevant to the plot and like what's actually happening.
And as the person who wrote the script for this, I totally agree with you because there's what's happening in front of us, and then there's a lot of this background knowledge that Evie peppers in every once in a while related to her, you know, her research and, you know, the different elements of ancient Egypt. So it's hard to keep track of. And I also think, remember in 28 Days Later, where I had this idea of what this movie is about or what that scene was? I'm curious if it's the same thing where you kind of just revert back to what you know about the movie when...
Which is basically nothing. Because watching it even as a kid, I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on. You know,
people are hot and it looks pretty cool.
Really, yeah. And they're fighting each other. But anyway, I'd be curious to hear from listeners, like, if that is a common experience or if it's, you know, because, yeah, I've seen this multiple times and I think this is very unique to this movie for me. Because I feel like I'm usually pretty good at picking up on nuance and, like, things, but watching this movie, I'm like, what is happening?
Perhaps it's overly complicated and
I'm overstimulated. Literally, I'm overstimulated watching the action and I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think it works. This movie works if you don't know what's going on because obviously there's the good guys, the bad guys.
I still return to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's still a movie that I love.
But there are elements of it that are like, this is, like, what?
What's happening? Anyway, go
on. So back into the Museum of Antiquities. We meet Evie, who is kind of like a bumbling, intellectual sweetie, who's got a bit of a chip on her shoulder in the sense to, like, prove herself to others. But she is shelving books, on this very tall ladder. And this is what I mean by bumbling, is that she tries to, like, lean over and put a book away, and then all of a sudden she's like, oh no, I'm on top of the ladder, and it's like...
And this ladder's like, what, 10 feet tall at least? 15?
Maybe. I'm thinking 15, because it looked tall, because those shelves were huge. At the top.
Yeah.
And so, this ladder scene quickly turns awkward girl comedy gold, because she falls over, trying to get her balance, and talk about, like, domino effect. These massive old fucking library shelves go doom, doom, doom in a circle around her. The cartoon Hercules came out in 1997. That's 2 years before this movie. I just want to say that this scene directly reminded me of the scene when Hercules is a teenager and they're in town and he accidentally knocks over the entire market. Yes!
And all the pillars all fall.
And they go, doop.
I'm just saying.
So, what we're presuming to be Evie's boss, the head librarian, comes in and he's just like, what the fuck just happened? And he's obviously pissed. Fair enough.
That actor is a very big actor.
Eric Avari. So, Dr. Terrence Bay, the head librarian, comes in and he's pissed because it's a fucking mess.
Dude, and you know that all those books are old as fuck.
They're dust. I'm just assuming they've collapsed on themselves and become dust.
Yeah.
And I think he compares her to being worse than the plagues. Like, she's like, what? He's like, why did I hire you? Oh yeah, because you're a Nepo baby and I know your parents. And he keeps her around for that reason, because she's a smart lady, but primarily nepotism. But she, like, gets a little bit of a huff about it. She's like, no, I am qualified to do this.
I'm sorry though, but are you? Like, the scene that I'm looking at right now does say otherwise. That's me, like, humbly, I just feel like I am really on his side in this moment. Like,
rightfully.
What the fuck did you do in here?
I believe, as a librarian, one must know how to put said books away. And she's got caught up in her quirky little world, whatever. But she reveals that she is very qualified. She is a reading and writing expert when it comes to ancient hieroglyphs, and she's got some serious organizational skills to understand how to, like, basically manage the museum. She is a spoiled Nepo baby, but Evie overhears a noise in the other room once Dr. Bay leaves, and she, like, pulls a torch right off of the wall, and she goes exploring.
Just fucking open torches in the library?
Yeah.
All right.
Very
1923. They didn't have electricity?
Maybe. I'm not
into it.
It's fine. So she's investigating this spooky noise that she heard, and she's in another room. So she's no longer in, like, the book part of the museum. Mm-hmm. She's now in what I could assume is, like, the sarcophagus room, because there's just tons of these, you know, ancient coffin boxes.
Yeah, it's like the goodies, tomb goodies room.
Yeah. And she's searching through, and boom, jump scare. A skeleton pops out of the sarcophagus and scares the shit out of everybody.
That was a dirty skeleton, though. It looks like there's meat on it still.
Yeah. Scares the shit out of all of us, and we are introduced to prankster brother supreme Jonathan. And he is living it up. He thinks he's the funniest fucker in this world.
I hate Jonathan. I'm not gonna lie.
He doesn't really contribute very much.
No, he's
other than a good laugh.
I mean, if you're into that.
If you're into that. But essentially these siblings are quite sweet with each other. They share a little bit of moments and
a little too sweet sometimes also. It's like, just chill out on your sister there, John.
Just a little, like 6 feet apart. He tells her that she brought her something special, and he presents this little box, but it is hexagonal box, metallic, and
metallic, but like brown metallic, right?
Patinaed metallic.
Yeah, like it's not like silver. Or,
no. It looks old, and it's got hieroglyphs all along the sides of the box, and Evie just instinctively gives it a twist, and the whole thing just,
following her instinct,
pops right open. And surprise, she pulls out a map. I, as a kid, would fucking kill for this moment, to like come across a secret map inside a small puzzle box.
I spent most of my childhood looking for secret maps.
Right? Yeah. Getting in trouble, looking in boxes.
Trying to create secret maps.
Totally.
Burying things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a hidden map. So she presents this map to Dr. Bay, and she's going through everything she's already researched about it. She says that she understands that this map is connected to Hamunaptra, a city that has not been. Jonathan is foaming at the mouth for the potential of treasure in all of this. The head librarian is listening and kind of looking at it, and then oopsie daisies, the map catches on fire. It appears to be accidental, but
he's not over what she just did.
Yeah. He's still quite salty about the massive pile of books that are just destroyed in the other room. The map catches fire, half of it's burned out, but the siblings are essentially like, we must go. Evie, for the potential of research and knowledge and discovery. Jonathan is all about that treasure. But they don't know, obviously, how to get there. Because they are, again, I think I've said this before, they're the epitome of indoor kids. They don't really know how to navigate the wild dunes of the desert. So they need a guide who knows what they're doing. So Jonathan describes the person who found the box in the first place, and he happens to be imprisoned. So they head to the prison yard to find the guy who found the puzzle box. And a rugged, shackled Rick O'Connell.
Long hair Brendan Fraser.
George of the Jungle era long hair, I might say.
Oh my god.
And he is looking rough. And like,
I know,
but still damn good. And he is like brought out in shackles and kind of like pinned down on his knees, like standing on his knees. And the two siblings kind of come up to him on the other side of the cage. And they have like a little back and forth here and there. Some snarky banter. But basically they're there to ask him to be a guide to go back to Hamunaptra.
He kisses her.
Unconsensually. So there is a rogue, well, first of all, he punches Jonathan in the face.
Good for him.
And then kisses Evie. And he says, "Get me the hell out of here."
Wait, and she's like, "Why did you do that?" And he's like about to die.
Why not?
I mean, I'm a consent queen.
Yes.
But in this instance, I'm kind of like, I'd probably go for a kiss.
We'll get into this
you're
later
about to die. Like, I don't know.
I get it, but ask.
Yeah.
We're not condoning this behavior. We are not. And the guards didn't either because they beat the shit out of him. So we find out in that split second that Rick is actually being dragged to get hanged. And he is fighting for his life because, they straight up like hang him.
Yeah, this part confused me.
In what way?
Is this prison?
I think this is prison.
And then the other guy, the guy, he's like the prison
warden. The
warden. I was like, what is this, the king of Egypt? What's going on?
No, he is just the one in charge of the prison and executions.
Okay. Cool
and
job.
So, right? It's got a great resume. So as Rick is fighting for his life, Evie's negotiating rather quickly with the skeevy prison warden guard who like touches her inappropriately and is just like, "Ooh, I'll make it with your wine," like gross. And she reveals that Rick knows where the City of the Dead is. This is her last card to pull. She's like, I'll give you this much money, this much money. Yeah. And she just like quickly is like, I'll let you in on this. We'll give you a cut. And they kind of banter back and forth about the percentage. And she kind of outsmarts him and gets him to drop his percent price down to like 25. And Rick is released. A short while later, I'm assuming like the next day, let's say, we see Evie and Jonathan.
Well, he had to have time to get a haircut.
Oh, not only just a haircut. So Evie and Jonathan are seen walking along the boardwalk to board the boat, to take them on their first leg to get to Hamunaptra. And the stunning, handsome, still rugged, but clean Rick O'Connell appears.
She's talking to her brother and she's like, I don't know why you chose this man. He's a rogue. He's a brute.
A rake.
He's awful. He's just disgusting and all of this and like talking so much shit. And then he's like, who are you talking about?
And when I say this man has a glow up, he is fucking handsome.
Shiny, brand new, spanky.
Yeah, spanky.
Yeah,
it'll be.
This is the thirstiest I think this podcast is ever gonna get.
Because this is a thirsty fucking film. I'll spank him. He can spank me. Let it all happen. We're spanking each other at the same time.
Oh my god, yeah.
Basically, this man is looking fine.
He looks gorgeous.
And he apologizes to Jonathan for the punch, but casually glazes over the fact that he unconsensually kissed Evie. Anyways, to Evie's dismay, the warden also boards the boat with them. So, flash to a little bit later on the...
And I'm sorry, Evie cannot trust Jonathan to protect her.
No, she's the assertive one. She's the brainy one. Jonathan's kind of a...
Weasel?
He's a gestury, jokey, kind of a rake in the sense that he just like does whatever he wants. Probably went to boarding school, messed around, probably got in trouble, but not really in trouble.
So, weasel?
He's a weasel.
Yeah.
So they're all on the boat. And they're on the move.
No, people like that never really get in trouble.
Right? Well, they have privilege. Daddy will pay for it. Flash to a little bit later on the boat. We see a covert canoe paddling towards the boat silently in the dark of the night. Mm-hmm. And we recognize them to be the Magi. And I think this is where people are like, oh, are they bad?
Yeah.
Right?
I thought they were bad, yeah.
Yeah. So out on the deck, we are introduced to 3 Americans playing cards with Jonathan. And Jonathan is also, like, getting easily sucked into betting and gambling with these guys.
And he's running his mouth.
Oh,
he's
spilling the beans.
The legumes. Spilling those legumes everywhere.
And we find out that they're also going to Hamunaptra.
Like, at this point in time, this place is quote unquote undiscovered.
Yeah.
And you're hot on this trail.
Yeah.
Why are you talking about it?
This man can't keep his mouth shut. Right? And so we find out that these 3 Americans are also hunting to be the first people to find Hamunaptra. And they're also with Dr. Chamberlain, who is a Brit researcher as well. So essentially we have 2 groups of people heading to Hamunaptra. We have our group, who is Evie, Jonathan, Rick, and the warden, and then the other group, who have one hell of a fucking bandwagon of lackeys. They have all of these workers coming.
Dudes, yeah.
They got a lot of workers with them. You know they're not getting paid. So Dr. Chamberlain, Chambers, doesn't matter. I'm going to call him Dr. C. And the Americans are on the hunt as well. We kind of catch a little bit of this banter between Rick, who's also American, and, you know, the people who are at the table gambling. They make a bet with Rick that they'll beat him to the city for $500. So the race is on. Rick is kind of like not bothered by it. He's like, fuck, whatever. I'm not doing this. But Jonathan kind of signs them up for it. Weasel.
Well, Rick had also kind of stepped in and like silenced Jonathan
like,
at this point.
Mouth,
so
man.
This was Rick's way of diverting as well.
Yeah.
From Jonathan giving all the tea away.
Yeah.
Right?
Jonathan. Evie, sweet Evie, is tucked away from the hustle and bustle, and she's just reading her books. And she's tucked away down on the other side of the boat. And Rick approaches, and they're still not quite on good terms, but they are flirting hard here.
I mean,
they're both fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
And they kind of have an interesting push-pull about them in terms of the chemistry. And Rick, like, throws his, I don't know how to describe it, but it's essentially this bag that unrolls in front of her, and it's got, like, guns, ammunition, weapons, and there's some serious hardware.
It's like, Prov has that for the kitchen.
Oh yeah,
right?
like
He's got like a knife roll and it's got like all his knives and the sharpener and the tweezers and the scissors and the all the tools.
And these are Rick's tools, right? He is a professional cowboy, like you said. She questions why he's bringing all of this weaponry. She's like, it's a research mission. What do you mean? What are you bringing on? And he reveals there's some spooky ass shit going on there the last time he was there.
You don't know half of it, little lady.
Little lady. And he is coming prepared. Evie shares that she's horny for artifacts. She is like frothing at the mouth to get at these like untouched Hamunaptra artifacts. And it's not necessarily like treasure. She's just like, I just want to roll around in some scrolls.
Yeah,
I'm
for
so
her
excited.
it's not the treasure, it's the knowledge.
The
knowledge is the treasure.
The knowledge is the true treasure. One
moral of today's story.
One artifact that she's particularly horny for is the Book of the Dead. I don't quite recall what happened, but they have a huffy huff and she storms off. And Rick's like, dang, girls, women, am I right? And he like looks over and he sees a familiar shadow and he goes, fucking Benny. So he manages to grab Benny, pull him out of behind this like hiding luggage, and Rick is super pissed at him obviously for
abandoning him
and shutting him out from safety. But we find in this exchange that Benny has been hired, how Rick has also been hired to be the guide for the three Americans and Dr. C, for some serious cash. And Rick tosses him off the boat.
Yeah, he threw that man overboard.
No, did not pause, did not blink, chucked him.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah. Just desserts, in my opinion. And as he like kind of looks at Benny over the edge, kind of like swimming to the shore, he notices some wet footprints coming from the edge of the boat leading inwards, and he goes, ruh-roh, what is that? I'm just realizing that my computer has auto-corrected the Magi to Mariah, which is not what I'm about to say. But essentially, the Magi who had come in on the canoe have boarded the boat stealthily and are rummaging through people's quarters and bedrooms to find something. They happen to bust in on Evie as she's lost in thought. She's like, it's not even that good of a kiss. He's not even that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And she's just like trying to read a book and getting distracted. And it's just so adorable because she's just like getting lost in like from one horny thing to another. Really. She's like, oh, goodness, Rick, I hate him. But also, damn, he's attractive and charming.
Yeah.
Oh. So she doesn't really see it coming.
But she wants to be mad.
She wants to be mad. Because he's a dick.
Yeah.
But the attraction is real. Magi busts into her room and like holds her against a wall and is like, where's the map and the key? And she like looks at the table and gestures to the map, and he like grabs it and he's like, where's the key? And she's like, what key? I don't know what you're talking about. And she doesn't know what he means. And in the process of this scuffle, lanterns have fallen over and not another fire, but a fire is spreading now all throughout the room. Rick busts in, kind of like saves the day, manages to get Evie out of the room, and she's like, but Rick, the map! And he tugs her and he's like, I'm the map! It's all up here, I know where we're going.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, that's reassuring.
Right?
Like,
I don't know, everything I know about you tells me that you don't know what you're doing. And just as the Magi guy is about to grab the puzzle box that was still in that room, which is the key, Jonathan busts in and is just like, hello everybody, what's going on? Oh my god, a fire! Oh my god, who are you? And the Magi is kind of like knocked over, he's stunned, and Jonathan like grabs the puzzle box and runs.
The way that Jonathan lights this man on fire.
Yeah. Whoops.
By accident.
But like, that's what I mean. Like, Jonathan is always like winning out of happenstance. Like, he's not actually intentionally doing things, but he happens to get away scot-free.
Something that kind of surprised me, I was like, wow, they're really killing people in this movie.
It is violent.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, they're really shooting to kill.
Life or death.
Shoot to kill. Win a thrill. Too many women. Shoot to kill. And I'm ready. And I'm
yeah. Okay. I was like, I don't know all the words. I know that
I'm
song.
so sorry.
Don't apologize for magic. Evie is in her full nightgown, ready for bed, but plans have changed, obviously, because the boat's on fire now, and Rick just picks her up and tosses her off the boat. And he's fighting for his life up there, punching and kicking and shooting, and he eventually jumps off the boat to swim ashore with her. The Americans are loving it, though.
You have to only say Dr. C and the Americans.
Dr. C and the Americans.
Yeah, because it's like, that's their band name.
That is
and
their
I just
band name.
love it.
Dr. C and the Americans.
They're having fun. They're having fun.
They're yipping and yelling, yeah, pew, pew, pew.
Yakadoo!
They are loving the violence. Jonathan's just like giving them a look of like, what the fuck? And I think he goes, Americans. But a massive blast goes off on the boat and Jonathan is knocked over the side and now he's in the water as well and he's swimming to shore. So as we see everyone kind of making their way off the boat and swimming to shore, we hear Benny yell, who's on one side of the river, and the crew that we know are on the other river. And Benny yells, kind of like in a joking way,
looks like I got all the horses.
And Rick responds without skipping a beat, Benny, looks like you're on the wrong side of the river. And Benny's just like, fuck, again. So the little scoundrel is screwed a little bit.
Yeah.
Evie's like kind of freaking out. She's like, I don't have any of my tools. I don't have no clothes.
I lost all my clothes.
All I have is this see-through white nightgown that's all wet. Oh.
Classic Evie.
Classic Evie. Kind of like this is happening all in the middle of the night. So the next day, Rick, Evie, Jonathan, and the warden make their way to a local community with basically an opportunity for them to buy clothing, tools, and
mounts.
I said steeds in my note.
Love a steed.
Love a steed. And Jonathan is being a little twat about it, being like, I don't want camels. Where are your horses? And Rick's just like, trust me, the camels are going to be great. And again, just Jonathan's complaining all the time. But Evie, my word, she comes out and she is decked out in this local clothing that's quite beautiful. And Rick has to do a double take. He's like, but, because he's seeing her in a different light. Perhaps because she's stunning, but also, I don't know.
Well, she doesn't have her glasses anymore.
The classic. She doesn't have her glasses on.
So I'm pretty sure that's why.
Yeah. It's the,
she's all that.
She's all that effect.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was going to say can't hardly wait. Same era. Different.
Different.
Okay, so Rick, Evie, Jonathan, the warden are now traveling across the desert to make their way to Hamunaptra. The wind is blowing and like you said, there's sand everywhere. And as I was watching this, I was reminded, so when Ty and I were in Nepal, we had to kind of walk through a bit of this like desert area to get to our next campsite. And we had to walk through and a fucking sandstorm is no joke. Like, you are so disoriented so quickly because you are closing your eyes to shield them. I think the only thing that was seen was just my eyes with my sunglasses, and they can last a really long time. So it's not a good time. Like, Rick knows what he's doing. He knows where they're going. They make it through some rough patches, but it's a bit of a trek to get to this spot. So late into the evening and they're barely hanging on. They're like falling asleep on their camels. In the moonlight, we see, again, far off into the distance, a group of like 6 or 7, people and horses. And they're like up on a ridge and just like watching. And we see them as the Magi. And they're not interfering just yet. They're just watching. They're just seeing where this will go. But finally, the next day, the Dr. C and the Americans and their lackey group.
Then this is when they seemingly come
from two opposite ends. Dr. C, the Americans, and Benny and their group of workers meet up with our main group. Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of banter chit-chat, a little dissing here and there, and they're seemingly like waiting. And Jonathan and Evie are like, what the hell's going on? Like, why aren't we moving along? And they have to wait because the sun rises at a particular time in the day. Fact. But wow. As the sun...
Not only is this podcast fun, it's educational.
Factual. You're walking away with
you learn
so
something.
Many gems.
You learn something every
week.
The
sun comes up.
Right?
Period.
Yeah.
And as the sun breaks the horizon, this mirage-type shimmer in front of them, like a couple kilometers away, like reveals, almost like magic, this hidden Hamunaptra, City of the Dead. Mm-hmm. And boom, they are off to the races. They are hustling. And surprise, surprise, the camels are kicking ass.
The way that Rick cheeses at Evie while they're racing is so cute.
They have some beautiful eye contact,
he
too.
is very impressed by her riding abilities at this moment.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, yes. He is surprised, turned on, intrigued, impressed.
Yep.
He's just watching this seemingly intellectual, nerdy indoor girl kick ass on this camel. She's just like running. And she might have just, by happenstance, just got the fastest camel. I digress.
There is a little bit of an element of her feeling somewhat out of control. Yeah. Like there's a vibe of she's like, holy fuck,
here we go, baby.
Yeah.
But
she's killing it nonetheless.
She's killing it. And they have a cute like little moment where they smile and look at each other as she passes him on the camel. And he's like, well, damn.
He loves that.
Oh, he's all about that. We can get a little glimpse of the kink factor for Rink. Rink. Rinky is kinky.
I hate that you just called him Rink by accident. I hate that. Because it's like Rinky Dink, right?
Dink. You love it.
No, I hate it.
Evie makes it to the city first, so she wins the bet. Didn't see that coming, did you, boys? Now, flash a little bit later to the two different groups respectively setting up their camps. The three Americans and Dr. C and the three Americans.
Thank you.
Brought some serious human power. Like, these people are lifting and digging and erecting all sorts of tents. And we are introduced a little bit further to Dr. Chamberlain as a wealthy historian treasure hunter.
Piece of shit.
And he's there to essentially be the brains of the operation on that side, and the Americans are the bronze, I suppose. He makes some fucking sexist comments.
2/3 of the Americans are hot.
Well, it depends on your definition of hot.
To me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Factually.
So, empirically
hot. Research says. Like I said, he was making some sexist comments about the other group being led by the women.
Yeah,
like
what the fuck is a woman gonna know?
Yeah, he really
said that.
Yeah, and totally dismissed because they're a serious operation in a sense that they have like a lot of equipment, a lot of people, basically
a lot of slave labor.
Exactly. And the four of them, or rather the three of them, the warden's just off doing whatever, but Evie, Jonathan, and Rick are like messing around with some mirrors. And one of the Americans comes up and is like, should we be worried about that? Or like, what are they doing? And Dr. Chamberlain completely dismisses it and being like, oh, it's just some woman, whatever.
Yeah.
But Evie knows exactly that these mirrors are going to help. It's an ancient, illumination. So the mirrors reflect the sunlight from the above ground into the below ground.
The sun rises.
Fact.
First.
Period. Period. The sun reflects in mirrors.
Yeah.
And then the mirrors bounce said sun.
Yeah.
Off of them.
Hello. This is a Magic School Bus episode, I think.
Rock the river of love. Rick gives her a special gift. It is a set of archaeological dig tools because she was upset that all of her tools got you know, completely lost in that boat fire.
He stole it from the Americans.
He sure did.
Hell yeah.
It's very cute. She smiles as Rick jumps, to his, she smiles, ear to ear as he, grabs the rope and just, jumps feet first into, this darkness of a hole.
Rick is so fucking cool.
Yeah. She's like, oh. They're basically setting up their dig site at the base of Anubis.
Because she's pretty sure this is where they need to be.
This is where they need to be.
They have a little more info than Dr. C and the Americans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
triangulation.
Dr. C and the Americans are gonna do their own thing, but eventually they'll meet up underground. But
yeah,
not yet. So as they make their way underground, the mirrors are working perfectly. The sun is shining underground. Oh no. This is science. It is lighting it up. And Evie reveals that they are in a preparation room where they basically make mummies. And Jonathan is skeeved out.
The Mummy Factory.
It's the Mummy Factory. Also a great band name.
Yeah, we are just
on fire.
Full of hits.
We're on fire. They make their way further into the tomb and they hear scary ass bug noises. And the warden goes, I hate bugs.
Is that the scarabs?
Yeah. They're really deep in. Mm-hmm. And they have their torches. And they're weaving through these underground tunnels to find a secret compartment that Evie had been researching up until this point about the the burial site underneath Anubis. And suddenly, scary voices and noises are approaching them. And we as the audience are like slowly building up to the fact that shit is going to hit the fan really soon. And we don't really know when, how, or why.
When.
When. The dread, the build up. But surprise, it's just the Dr. C and the Americans. Mm-hmm. And their crew. So they have a bit of like the standoff because they were all pointing their guns ready to like shoot at some bad scary thing coming around the corner.
Scared each other, yeah.
They scared each other. They have a standoff and then they're like, we were here first. And it's like, no, we were here first. And Evie, sweet, smart Evie, notices that below, she like knocks over a pebble and she can hear it going ding, 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 ding. And she kind of like puts it together that there's a secret compartment underneath this and they don't want to be up here. They want to be down there.
Yeah. The way, like, she could not have been more obvious calling off Rick.
Rick, no.
She's like, Rick, winking, like, audibly, like, hey,
we don't want this. Let them have it.
Yeah, right. Like, it just was so fucking,
yeah, she rolled high on deception on that one. Because that was fucking obvious. Let's let the Americans have this site.
Which is like, they never would.
No.
Yeah.
But basically, she realized this is not where they wanted to be. So we flash now to the three of them underneath where they previously were, digging kind of like at the ceiling because, and Jonathan notices that the warden's not with them. But like, we as the audience get to cut and see the warden kind of like skulking around. Either he's lost or he's hunting for his own.
I think that the warden, he is only there to make sure he gets his fair cut, that they don't like dupe him, right?
Totally.
I think that he is not really interested in all of this like history stuff. Like he's just like spending time. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he's like passing time looking around.
And yeah, he's a bit of a dink, but the way that this tomb did him dirty is not great because he's like, you know, skulking around doing his thing, kind of like, and then he comes across this mural on the wall in the tomb and it's decorated with these, what appears to be gems in the shape of a scarab. And he goes, hell yeah, I'm going to start picking these off the wall and pocketing them. So we see him like shucking them off of the wall and he's like giddy. He's so excited. His pockets are full. And we will come back to our friend in a moment because now flash to where the Yanks are digging up the base.
Excuse me?
The Yanks. The Yankees.
Excuse me?
Is that derogatory now?
Dr. C and the Americans.
Sorry. Yanks is their second album. Where they go through a bit of an identity crisis. Okay, and they drop Dr. C.
All right.
Dr. C and the Americans are back at the top half, I suppose, of the base of Anubis, and the others are at the below half of the base. So the Americans start to dig at the base of the statue, and they're like, why are we doing all the work? So, in classic fashion, they make the probably very underpaid, if not paid at all, slave labor folks to start digging at the base for them. And they get booby-trapped.
Acid in the face.
And we get some
something.
hardcore glimpse of skin melting off face at this point.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on right now because this is all happening simultaneously at the same time where the warden is getting his fix with the scarab sapphires. The Americans and Dr. C are digging at the tomb above while Evie, Jonathan, and Rick are digging from below. And as they are doing so, Evie's explaining mummification while Jonathan's golfing, like just off to the side.
Fucking around. Also, I feel like Evie's just trying to creep them out.
Well, she kind of likes, she loves what she does. She is, you know, an educated queen. I love it. And she's explaining the really gruesome details of the mummification practice. And Rick is like, cool, as they're digging. And as Jonathan accidentally golfs a stone perfectly at something somehow that triggers this giant sarcophagus to fall from the ceiling right in between all of them that's buried at the base of Anubis. And she goes, oh my, this is unexpected. This guy is either incredibly important or he did something very, very bad to be buried at the base of this particular statue. We now flash to one of the scariest scenes, and Tyson was just like, can you tell me? Because this is one of his ultimate fears.
Oh, I love this part.
Oh, God. So I was like, okay, close your eyes. This is essentially the scene where the scarab stones aren't actually stones. They are real.
Sleeping.
They are dormant, flesh-eating scarabs that wake up and like, oh, stretching my legs. Oh, is that an all-you-can-eat buffet in front of me?
I'm starving. I've been asleep for 3,000 years.
So hungry. So this scarab burrows his way into the warden's shoe, into his skin, and he is obviously very scared and upset, and he like rips at his shirt, and we see the scarab underneath his skin
crawling up
all the way up to his neck, into his face, and chomp. Got into that brain buffet. The scarab's
very nutrient dense, I guess.
They'll be full for years. This is obviously terrifying, and he is screaming and running. I don't know what to call him, because there's Dr. C and the Americans, and then we have our ragtag group of...
I know, it's not fair that our opponents have such a fucking great name.
Badass
and
name.
then the A-team is like, just basic, no name. Well, it'll come, it's okay.
If not, I'm gonna refer to them as the A-team. That it is decided.
Okay.
So, flashback to the A-team reading the hieroglyphs along the sarcophagus that fell down, and Evie is starting to realize that this man that broke into her room was talking about a map and a key, because they notice on the sarcophagus an imprint perfectly to match this puzzle box that when opened it turns into a twisty key. Ever curious Evie is just like, if it's a key and there's a key lock, I'm gonna put it, not even like thinking like, what are the ramifications of opening this goddamn thing? She twists it open, but before they can do anything, the warden rushes into the area that they're in, screaming, and smashes into a wall, and he dies. So it's really grim, which changes the tone of the whole exploration at this point. So,
yeah, because, when they come back up at the end of the day, and Brendan Fraser gets the information about what happened with Dr. C and the Americans and their workers.
Yes.
And so he's saying to the group, like, not only did this happen, but something else horrible happened to them as well. And like, there's like, we really need to be more cautious, because like shit's popping off here. Like,
which is just like, it kind of perturbs me a bit in the sense that Evie is so educated in ancient Egyptian culture and practices. Like, wouldn't you consider taking things, I don't know, maybe she's getting like wrapped up in it.
No, she wouldn't, because she's from a family of treasure hunting plunderers and colonizers.
Like, that's mine. I wanna discover it, so she doesn't think twice.
No, exactly.
Good point. So like you just said, the trio, the A-team, are now outside, kind of around fire, like a fire pit. And Jonathan's just carelessly going through the warden's things, like very, in my opinion, like disrespectful, being like, let's see what this old stinky man had on him.
Doesn't matter that he was a piece of shit. He just lost his life, so
very violently.
Yeah. It's not like you're looking for clues.
No, they're just being nosy. But they find some booze.
Yeah.
But as this first day on the dig site is kind of like coming close to the end, the camp is then suddenly raided by the Magi on horseback. So guns are firing again. Jonathan is shooting while drinking. Rick is jumping off walls onto horses. Evie's tucked away. Rick grabs some loose dynamite and he like lights it, and he, in attempt to make the Magi like stand down, because he's like, I don't have any problem blowing us all up.
Benny does a spit take right into Jonathan's face, which was really shocking for me.
Really?
What?
What was shocking about it?
It was disgusting.
Oh.
He did a spit take into Jonathan's face. They had to act that. That man had to spit into that man's face probably more than once. That's so horrible to me.
Even with the weasel? Like, it's kind of
I see bug stuff for you, body stuff for me, like fluid stuff. It's just like, I just feel like that's disturbing. Yeah.
Ew. Okay, fair enough. In the midst of all of this, spit takes and all.
Yeah.
The lead Magi, his name is Ardith. He gestures to his crew to like back off a little bit. Enough blood has been spilled tonight.
Is he wearing his hat right now?
Yes.
Okay.
You must leave this place or die. You have one day to leave. And the Magi leave, and Rick goes to find Evie, and they have an intimate moment. Of just like, are you okay? And she's like, oh, that was scary. The Americans ask to join forces for the night. They're spooked. And they saw Rick handle himself really well and was basically like, well, you do you want to like team up for a minute and then maybe we can like go back to being enemies, but for tonight we're really scared.
We can all just like cuddle around the fire.
Just all together.
Protect us too.
Just a little rub on my back. That would be nice. They decide to call it a truce. Because at this point, Dr. C and the Americans and the A-Team are kind of at odds with each other because they're trying to find the same thing. The Big Dig. Rick, Jonathan, I wrote Rick, Jonathan, and Rick. No. Rick, Jonathan, and Evie are all hanging around the fire, and they are passing the booze around, and Jonathan is out cold, and Evie is capital D drunk. And she's slurring her words and kind of like pouting and not really fully making sense. She says, "What is a place like this doing in a girl like me?" It's like, whoa. And Evie reveals that her father was a famous explorer and loved Egypt so much that he married her mother, who was an Egyptian woman, allegedly, and who was also an adventurer in her own right. And Rick asks her, "Why are you here, though? For real?" She has a tizzy of a moment, just like, all of these men are just asking why and how I can't do this and I can't do that. And she's like trying to defend herself while very drunk. And she goes, I'm a librarian.
It's so cute.
And she attempts to kiss Rick, but passes out in his lap before she can.
But he was puckering up and I was disappointed.
I think he was too. He was too.
No, yeah, but I really wanted him to say no to the drunk kiss.
I see.
Yeah, but it's okay.
1999, baby.
Yeah. I just was like, I knew it was coming in this moment as she's drunk, and I was like,
come on, man.
Yeah, but
Rick O'Connell is not Brendan Fraser.
Brendan Fraser would never.
Yeah. So, cue to the next morning, and Dr. C is directing the workers to lift out all of the special boxes that are now available to take out now that the acid is done doing its job, booby trapping.
Cool.
Yeah. And the workers are just like, oh, okay.
Well, they found the book, though. Like,
not yet.
Oh, no, but I thought he found the book. I thought they found the book first, and then they were like, where's the real treasure?
No, this is part of it. Okay. So, this box that they pull out, he reads that, so Dr. C reads the hieroglyphs on the box and says that this is a pretty big curse. There's a pretty big curse on this box. And the Americans are like, who the fuck cares? Open it up. I want that cash money.
Yeah.
So Dr. C continues to read the warnings that promises death to those who open the chest. Spooky wind makes an appearance, and the workers are like, yeah, we're done. And they fucking book it. And
Good for them.
Good for them. He continues to read that if you open the box, the owner of the organs will come after you to reclaim them. Something about, like, don't bring anybody back from the dead. And they're like, we're not gonna do that. Benny is like, even at this point being like, nuh-uh, I'm not sticking around for this. I am out of here. And he runs away. And of course, they open the box. Evie, John, and Rick are opening their own box in another room. Mummy, like, shoots up again, a jump scare.
That mummy is so wet.
So juicy. And this movie, like, they love the fucking Jack in a Box gag, where the mummy's like, psych!
It's great.
It's a classic jump scare. They comment on how fucked up the body looks, and it's still, like, juicy and wet. And they find out that this man was buried alive.
Yeah, the back of the door of it is, like, covered in claw marks.
Yeah, which is horrific.
And some writing.
So he inscribed, as he was, like, slowly being eaten to death, death is only the beginning.
Beautiful.
It's chilling.
I think Peter Pan said that, too. No, he said death would be an awfully big adventure.
Different. Similar.
Yeah.
But different. So the Americans so let me just describe what's happening. So the Americans are above and the A-Team are below, and they're kind of going through their own little process of finding what they found the night prior. And the Americans find the Book of the Dead in a secret box, along with a hidden compartment with golden vases, with organ dust inside.
The way that the Americans are more excited about these little fucking vases than they are about an ancient book.
I think that goes to show they just want that flash.
Yeah, I suppose, but it's like, if you're talking about trading in, like, cash money, that ancient book is going to be far more valuable than some gold vases.
But I think we really get to see then how psyched Dr. C is about the book, and the Americans are like, sick, a fucking jar with a cool fucking jackal head on it. They have no idea what they're doing. They are in deep end, and they are about to get fucked. You know, in the midst of all this, Dr. C is like hella excited about the book. He comments that later on, oh, looks like you're going to need a key to open that book.
Yeah, because he's trying to just like wrench it open and it's not happening.
Oops, I don't know what kind of key they're talking about. So it's later on in the evening. The Americans are like jerking it over these fucking jars. Evie, Rick, and John are kind of like creeped out a little bit, but Evie is still horny for those artifacts. Evie shows the group the scarabs from what they found inside the sarcophagus of their juicy friend. She explains that the mummy was also given a curse of all curses because she's reading all of the things that are on the sarcophagus, and some serious bad shit would happen if they were ever to bring him back. Now, here's when curiosity does kill the fucking cat here, because Evie goes to sneak off and just like do a little bit of whoopsie whoop and sneaks the book away from Dr. C as he's sleeping.
It says that he would bring back the 10 plagues of Egypt.
Yeah. Bad.
10 plagues, water into blood, frogs, lice,
locusts,
flies, livestock pestilence, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and then killing the firstborn. This is also, as we said, it's like Christian and like Semitic, like
Abrahamic,
level religious stuff. So for a minute I was like, why is this like centered around that? Right? And like, is that even possible? But the plagues of Egypt were from 1570 to 1440 BC. And this is the beginning of the Mummy was set in 1290. So
inaccurate.
No, because it goes backwards at that time.
Oh, right.
Right?
Yes, because it's getting closer to zero.
Yeah, it's getting closer to zero. So it's like set like 150 years after the plagues.
Right.
So if they were real, they would be pretty fresh in the minds of those
many people
creating curses.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And it's basically like a do not break this glass, regardless if it's an emergency, because if you bring this dude back, you are going to pay a serious fucking curse of a price. So they really so the people who put the curse on this guy in the first place made it so bad, because apparently bringing people back from the dead resurrection kind of thing was just a casual Sunday for some people, but they were like, no, we need to put some serious consequences here to evade people, like make them not want to do it. So Evie calls it borrowing when she sneaks away with this book. She's so thirsty for like wanting to know. Again, curiosity. It's one of her most endearing qualities, but for real though, she doesn't think about the consequences here.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like, this is some supernatural paranormal stuff, like, but
4 people have died in
already
less than 24 hours. I just feel like maybe
slow your roll.
Whatever.
Slow your fucking roll.
Like maybe it's real on some level.
Maybe talk to a fucking local. Like, pause.
Well, all the locals are gone.
Well, they know what's what.
Yeah.
She brings out the puzzle key, the box, and she says, quote, "It's just a book. What harm could come from reading a book?" Famous last words. Girl, did you just not go off about the curses? Like, what harm could come from reading a book? The curse! I'm pissed.
So many warnings.
So many warnings. Like, they did not balk on the warnings. Fucking white people. Okay. Of course she starts to read it. Thereby bringing out our ooey gooey mummy back to life, back from the dead. And as she's like in the process of like wrapping up her sentence, Dr. C bolts up and goes, "No, you must not read from that book."
About 5 seconds too late, Dr. C.
Right? In a matter of milliseconds, the air shifts and a massive swarm of locusts descend on the camp. And it's like a moment of like, what have we done? The Americans and Benny and the trio all run into the tombs. The tunnels of the tomb, because locusts are just flying everywhere. And I don't know a lot about locusts, but I'm assuming they bite. Do they bite?
I don't know. Why not, right?
It's a plague after all.
Yeah. They're just like big nasty grasshoppers.
Yes. And eat anything and everything in their path. Hence why it's a plague. In the midst of the kerfuffle of getting inside and like seeking safety, the Americans get split up, and the one American kind of trips and his glasses fall off of his face. And as a kid, I always felt bad for this guy. I'm like, oh no, like this sweet guy.
He's hot.
He was one of the hotties for sure. But I always felt bad for this guy because he's like the first to go. Well, actually no, he's like the third or fourth, but he gets his glasses busted off of him and they're on the ground, and as people are running away, you can hear the crunch of someone stepping on his glasses. And I am not in any way, like I have glasses, but they're to be able to see far away and like read far away. I'm not visually impaired in the way that this man is visually impaired. Are you quite visually impaired without your glasses?
No.
You could make it.
I'd do okay.
You'd be okay. This man is like blurry central though. He cannot see anything. And the camera kind of like takes on the blurry vision of the camera lens. So we're kind of seeing what he sees, and it's like a lot of blurry movement and yelling, and we hear ragged breathing coming from behind him. The trio flash to them running through the tunnels, and they hear like a large crack, and it's almost like an earthquake, and a mountain of sand in front of them starts to rise, and they're like, what is going on? And then scarabs start to spill out of the ground and pooling up around them, and they have to run because there is no room to stand, let alone make it forward. They have to book it and turn around. And they manage to like jump off of a ledge onto another area that's got like a gap or a chasm in between. And so Evie's like backing up. And of course, secret door contraption like swivels her around and they get separated. She runs into our dear friend, glassesless American. And he has no eyes.
Yeah, but he's like turned around, right?
Yeah, and she's like, oh, thank God.
And then he turns around, he's like, oh.
Yeah. Eyeballs, gone.
Tongue?
Carved out. Tongue, chippity chopped, gone. And that is startling as fuck. And the mummy's like, hey, like appears.
Guess what I just got?
Look at my new eyes.
I can't see shit.
Where are those glasses? This man needs some fucking contact lenses. The mummy now has eyes and tongue, courtesy of our American friend. And he corners Evie. And this is where things get a little weird because he's like, he calls her an oxymon and asks her to come with him and like gestures. And she's just like, girly, come with me. We are meant to be together.
Babe,
it's so good to see you. It's been like 3,000 years.
Babe.
Rick and John finally like make their way into the little room that they're in, and they're like, Evie, and Evie's like, oh, like looking across the room.
Literally, Rick runs right up to her and he's like, we gotta get out of here. And she's like, it's right like in front of her, but he just didn't even clock her, and he ran right over, and then he looks, he's like, ah!
Yes, and it's hilarious. I love this bit because this movie does it a couple times.
Yeah, he does.
Where the mummy's like roars at them, like screams, like the jaw dislocates in that creepy way, and
Love
it's like,
it.
Rah! Yeah. And then Rick screams back at it and like shoots the shit out of him with the shotgun.
Yeah, I love that he does that, and he does do that a couple times.
Yeah,
he roars back.
He roars
like,
back.
I'm scared.
Yeah. The mummy's kind of like, whoa, like kind of caught off guard by the gunshot, but they managed to book it out of there and run directly into the Magi and the lead Magi, Ardith. And he's like, there's some spooky ass shit in there. And Ardith is like, no mortal weapon can kill this man. And Rick's like, no, I shot it. We're good.
Yeah. And he's like, no. Is he wearing a hat now?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm sorry.
What is with this hat?
When he takes it off, he's hot. He gets hot. Like, I didn't notice until...
Let's just assume right now the hat's off.
Oh my God. When he takes the hat off, I was like, is he also a fox?
Yeah. They're all banging.
Yeah.
They're all
he looks
smoking. Good. And he's got this like air about him too. It's just like
the hair, the like shoulder length hair.
This very like
cool
stoic
face tattoos.
Yeah. Hottie with a body. Okay. And he's a nice guy too, which just rounds out the whole thing.
He's wise.
Yeah.
And the whole time they were just trying to keep these fucking idiots out.
Right.
Like, and for the first bit, cause I guess I wasn't picking up, I didn't realize who they were, and so I was like thinking they were bad guys, and then now, but I always knew that, like, no, they were just trying to protect them from
they might do bad things
to
do the right thing.
Yeah. I was like, ugh.
So
come on, man.
The reality's starting to sink in that this is a big problem.
They go back to this like kind of military city, right? Like
this
fort that's not that far away.
Yeah, they make it back to, I think it's Fort Bryden. But before the whole audience kind of gets there, we kind of flash back to Benny, who's like running around in the tomb still, and he's stuck and has this moment where he runs into the mummy. Surprise. And Benny, in kind of like a weaselly fashion himself, kind of goes through all of these religious tokens and symbols that he has on necklaces around him, and he for each symbol he kind of is like, oh, that one didn't work, oh, let's go through this one.
Yeah, and he's saying in
the prayer
languages.
Yeah, so he's saying like religious prayers to go with the symbols, and eventually the mummy pauses on the Star of David, and the mummy recognizes the prayer and the symbol as the language of, quote, the slaves.
Yeah.
At this point, we see Benny kind of being like, well, I've got to kind of survive this, so I'm your new best friend.
Yes.
It's the duo of the century.
Best friend, personal assistant.
You name it. Coffee, latte, mail, dry cleaning. You got it, girlie. I will do it for you. It's giving Andrea from Devil Wears Prada with Meryl Streep.
That is exactly
the vibe that's
yeah.
happening right now. Just a lot more goo.
But equally as frightening.
My goodness. And the mummy's like, where are my sacred jars? I need my organs. Where are they? Now we flash to Fort Bryden.
Yeah, okay.
Back in Cairo. And Evie and Rick are up in a hotel room, and it looks like
fighting. They're arguing.
Oh, they are bickering supreme.
I was turned on by this fight.
This is definitely the lead up to some serious
sexual tension.
Fucking sweaty macking. Rick is packing Evie's suitcase, and Evie is unpacking her suitcase.
Yeah, so good.
In the midst of this argument. Rick wants to leave and get out of Dodge now, and Evie wants to stay and fix the mistake. Because she read the book, she kind of feels mad.
It's all her fault.
And she's kind of like, I got a mess to fix. I gotta clean this shit up.
I might have doomed Egypt.
Plagues? Rick storms off because he's like, oh, women! And he was like, oh, Rick. And we follow Rick into like a lobby area of either the hotel or a bar nearby.
It's giving hotel bar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Where he runs into an old army comrade, army connection, Captain Winston Havelock.
Who is just so sad that he's still alive and he didn't die like all his best friends.
He is kind of like the epitome of a man after war reliving the highlights, I suppose, of war, and being upset that he didn't go down in a blaze of glory, that he survived.
Slipping into addiction.
Yeah. And he's
struggling
kind of
with the trauma.
Yeah, and he's bumbling around, kind of like walking through a fountain, being like, oh, who put this here? Cracking
he's
jokes.
Wasted, he's old.
Yeah, and he kind of like runs into Rick and John, who are drinking at the bar, and the Americans also join in, talking about how fucked they are.
You can also, sorry, really quick, just that, Rick and the Americans, you can tell that they know this man, because he's like saying stuff and they're kind of like mouthing, they're like, yeah, we know. Like, he tells the same stories and they've been around him.
Yes, it's kind of like
they're familiar with him. He's like that local, drunk that's always at the bar telling the same
stories.
Yeah.
Over and over and over. Rick and John are like, how's your friend? Like, what's going on with your buddy? Like, is he okay?
Cause he made it out.
Yeah. Without some vital elements of his face. Yeah. But, we flash to our friend.
But one of the guys, he's like, is he okay? And one of the guys is like, he just had his eyes and tongue ripped out.
What do you think?
Like, what's wrong with you? Which I love.
Yeah, because it's also like, read the room, Rick. Like, of course he's not okay.
He's fucking not okay.
We flash to our friend that we're talking about, all bandaged up. So his eyes are all bandaged up, and unbeknownst to him, he is now in full blown, like, having tea conversation with the mummy.
That's
and
so
Benny.
Scary.
Benny is doing a lot of like the front of house stuff.
The talking. Yeah.
Because
the customer service.
The customer service side of things, because our friend the mummy is wearing like this kind of like metal mask and dark robes to hide the fact that he's an ooey gooey brought back from the dead thing. Until Benny starts to be like, we're here to finish the job. This poor man's like, can't talk, can't see, I'm fucked. And obviously he dies.
They take his life.
Flashback to the bar, the men spit out their shots immediately because it tastes like blood.
The first plague.
And a big ass sign that oh, the mummy is around.
Oh, he's here.
He's here. And also fireballs just flying from the sky. Some scary biblical shit.
hail is one of the plagues. I guess fire hail. Like, I'm used to the ice kind, but
this mummy said, no, we're not doing the old way of the plagues. I'm setting those hail balls on fire.
It's 3,000 years later.
I get to evolve.
We're taking things into the future. We're adapting. We're evolving. We're stretching the boundaries of what can and cannot be considered one of the 10 biblical plagues.
I gotta show my other mummy friends that I know what I'm doing.
Fireballs
from the sky.
Let me see them.
But basically, they have like a fuck, he's here moment. Mm-hmm. Rick runs back to the hotel because he's like, Evie, but runs into Benny, who's running out of the hotel. They have this like moment of like, what? We see that the American has been sucked dry, with the mummy then leveling up as a result of getting, justice and his organs back.
Yeah.
Slowly. So they're shooting at him. Obviously they haven't listened to a thing that Ardith was saying.
That's what I was saying. They know that guns are not going to work. Why? Don't run away. Just run away. Why are you even making a stand? It's not holding anything back. Just get the fuck out of there.
Get the fuck out of there. And the mummy is like, where my girl at?
Okay, I just want you to read my final note on this page, if you can read my scratch.
Honestly, I'm happy for him. He's living his best life. He's getting a makeover of the century.
I'm not gonna lie, I am pretty promptly going to become Team Mummy.
I think the tides are turning. We are now pro mummy.
I am. Honestly, I'm on the First of all, it's their own fault. I just feel like they came in there stomping around,
making a mess,
ignoring all signs, pillaging, plundering.
You come into my home.
They literally came into his home.
Yeah.
And stole from him, missed all the signs. He's just a romantic.
He just wants his love.
He's only a romantic. Like, the revenge that he's seeking isn't even his own revenge.
Go off.
He's been cursed. Like, he is not.
He's the victim.
He's totally the victim. And all he's trying to do is bring back his lover. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah, like, and if it means,
they're the ones who fucking unlock the door.
Balancing the scales.
I'm just saying.
A bit of pound of flesh to do some sense of justice.
Whatever, man.
Team Mummy all the way. But also Team Rick and Evie.
I'm Team Rick, but I'm Team Mummy. I'm not gonna lie.
So
I just love love.
Dakota's slowly turning this movie into a romance movie where they'll get married in the backyard.
Their love is 3,000 years old. Rick and Evie just met. I'm sorry. Okay, continue.
So he's going after Evie, as Dakota has obviously shared. And he's like whispering sweet nothings at her. He's like, I'm gonna be with you again. You're so beautiful. Come with me. Let's just go for a nice drive.
I mean, he does just need to steal her organs to bring back his actual lover, but
right. But it's for all for love.
Yeah.
And the best part of this movie, the true hero of this movie comes through a kitty. Meow. The kitty comes in because cats are the guardians of the underworld, and they go,
Yeah.
Didn't say the magic word. You need to get the fuck out of here. You don't belong.
Yeah.
And he goes, turns into a sand tornado and busts through the window.
Amazing.
Because cats are not gonna handle this shit. So they're all like, okay, so this is, weapons don't work. He's clearly not backing off. Evie is very vulnerable to becoming, a reincarnated Enoxenamon.
Starting to sound like we just need to sacrifice Evie.
That'll all go away if we just give her to him, right? So they go back to the Museum of Antiquities for some help, right? Some intellectual backup. They go to the head librarian, Dr. Bay. A little bit of a take two moment because Dr. Bay is just chit-chatting with Ardith in the library. Mm-hmm. And they go, wait, what? They reveal that Dr. Bay and Ardith are part of an ancient secret society to protect and defend from the creature from ever coming back. So he burned that map on purpose.
Good for him.
He was doing his job. Mm-hmm. Evie kind of shares with the group at this point, like, He's calling me a Noxanamon. He's talking about
really into me.
Yeah, did anybody else pick up on that? I'm giving off some serious hot girl vibes right now. The two of them, Bay and Ardith, kind of put together that, oh, Evie's the human sacrifice. No duh. And they're running out of time. I have qualms about how Rick chooses to handle this, but basically he locks Evie in the bedroom.
So stupid. Yeah, same.
That's like, quote, preventing her from danger. It's like putting a fucking fish in a barrel at this point.
Yeah, it's the classic, like, Fred from Scooby-Doo, let's split up.
Like, never split the party. Don't split the party.
Don't split the party.
Okay? I got a finger chopped off when I split the party, and I regret everything. And by me, I mean in D&D. Okay?
You learned your lesson.
I learned my lesson hard. That duck yelled at me so hard and loud.
Oh, dude.
I almost cried as Courtney.
In real life, I know. I was ready to fight Jacqueline in real life.
Oh,
don't talk to her like that.
Back to the movie. So yeah, Rick locks Evie up. And like that stupid dumb, we can't trust you, or like we don't trust the fact that you'll be taken, so we're just gonna put you here with a giant sign that says, don't take me, but I'm alone.
Yeah, just fucking keep her with you.
It's dumb. It's so dumb. And it's sexist, because it's like, oh, this woman can't fucking keep up with all of this. She's in danger. We need to hide her away. And demands that Jonathan joins him, and I'm like, Jonathan has not contributed
If anything, they should be locking Jonathan up, right? Like,
and he doesn't want to go, which is just, ugh. How is John any more competent than Evie in running?
It's giving John Hammond, right? From last week, or
Grandpa Bias,
of like, I should go because I'm a man. And it's like, how are you, Jonathan? I mean, Jonathan doesn't want to, but it's like, how is Jonathan more capable
of running away
than Evie? When it's shown time and time again that Evie is more competent than he is.
Yeah, she's basically solving all the problems. But she's
creating them.
Yeah. love a complex woman. Okay, so, Dr. C is running away. Mm-hmm. He's got his book that he's like cradling in his arms, and I think a jar too, and he's just like running away in the dark, but he's being hunted. Mm-hmm. Kill Surprise. Cut to Benny searching frantically for the Book of the Dead in, quite honestly, I don't know, but it's just an office somewhere. It's Dr. C's office.
Okay.
Duh.
Like, who knows what he's doing.
And Rick and Jonathan had the kind of same thought to go like track down Dr. C as well. Mm-hmm. And Rick's like, oh, fuck you, Benny. And like proceeds to kind of beat him up and kind of toss him around the room until Benny reveals that the mummy needs the book to bring back his dead love, girlfriend, and will be using Evie as a sacrifice. And I'm just like, we already knew that, but okay. Screams are heard from outside though, and Dr. C has been sucked dry as the mummy takes the book and organ jar from him. And
good for him.
The mummy kind of like looks up, makes eye contact with Rick, who's in a window overlooking the street, gives him a little and a swarm of bugs and locusts like come out of his mouth. And again, that like jaw dislocating part. But also, let's just say that the mummy is starting to look fine again.
Yeah.
He's like half gooey and half handsome. Mm-hmm. I'm not mad about it. Essentially, it's like 2 down, 2 to go. He's on a mission. So, cut back to the hotel where the 2 remaining Americans are hiding out, and they're basically guarding Evie at that point. Barf. One goes down to get a drink, and the other one is obviously sucked dry by a sand cloud. I'm thirsty now. The mummy is now 3 out of 4 organ jars collected, so he's leveled up not only in like appearing as a human, but he's also got like more powers, right? Mm-hmm. So he becomes sand and he sneaky snakes through the keyhole. Also, you're a fucking supernatural mummy. You could just barge the door down, but I love a good secret sand moment. So he makes his way through the keyhole as a pile of sand and comes back to his human form. And he just like, again, macks on Evie while she's sleeping, who wakes up to this half mummy, half human macking on her. And unfortunately, the part that's like half mummy is his mouth, so it's gooey.
And like knowing that he's full of bugs is pretty rough.
And sand. Also to the sand for me is gross.
So there's also, but how the fuck did she fall asleep? Right?
She's like tucked away in her like nighty
There's
negligee, like
so
oh.
much going on right now.
I would be like rocking back and forth.
Let me out of here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But again, some unwanted kisses coming Evie's way. Rick and John bust through with the ultimate secret weapon. Meow. Kitty kitty. Meow meow. Imhotep freaks out again, is just like, damn those cats. Mm-hmm. Turns into a tornado of sand and goes out the window. And again, I'm gonna say, I have 3 cats for a reason. A, I can't turn down a cat if it's presented to me. And B, for the spooky underworld guarding reasons, right? Your cat, Gimli, is like half here and half not. Like, he's an outdoor cat, right? Yeah. So you can't rely on that man to save your life.
God, he's so derpy too. I love him so much. He's like perpetually a little bit wall-eyed.
He's
especially
adorable.
when he's tired. It's like,
can you imagine Gimli going up
you're
against
supposed
this
to
guy?
be an apex predator, and you're just like, meh.
Yeah, he doesn't meow, he goes meow.
So meow.
Ugh, I'd love to see him show down with a spooky guy. Katie works. Imhotep freaks out and leaves. Evie, John, and Rick are making their way out with the remaining American, and they retreat back to the museum. And as they discuss their plans to send the mummy back to the underworld using the book, they overhear this kind of hive mind zombie-like chanting coming from outside. And it is not a door-to-door salesman looking to sell some Tupperware. It is just a massive crowd of boiled, brainwashed people.
Yeah, they're just under the spell. They have boils. Yeah. They haven't been boiled.
Thank you. To clarify, because it could go either way in this
they're
movie.
Covered in boils. Yeah, I think they're just under a spell at this point. But
so
they are just the population of the town. Like,
right.
they're normal dudes.
Innocents. Yeah, they're just civilians, and they're going, Imhotep.
Yeah.
Imhotep. And they're like, whoa. Now we've got not only this mummy, but this horde of people who are doing the mummy's bidding as well. Mm-hmm. Evie, quickly, Smarty Pants Supreme, goes and starts to read a bunch of the artifacts, like trying to find clues as to where the book they need. So this is when I get a little confused, because there's 2 books.
Yeah.
There's the Book of the Dead and then the Golden Book. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the answer to help them. Basically, without getting into the details of it, they need the other book, which has not been found yet. But Evie goes to read the artifacts and is just like, if this book was under this statue, that means that meme of like that woman staring off into the distance with calculations like coming out of her head. The other one's under the statue of Horus. And so, the one part of this movie where Jonathan's like running around outside and he gets like, he sees the crowd of brainwashed people coming in and he goes,
the one and only smart thing that he's done this entire movie.
I love that gag. Mm-hmm. I love when they pretend to be the thing that's coming.
Yeah. Comedy I think I've talked about this on the pod before too, but it reminds me of that Futurama episode where they end up on the robots only planet and Leela and Fry are like dressed as robots.
Yeah.
And they're walking in the crowd and Leela's like, you could have done a better costume. You look horrible. Yeah. And then the robot next to her isn't Fry. It's just a robot that looks like Fry's costume. And he's like, wow, that really hurt.
That cut really deep.
That's like a classic. I'm sorry. No worries. Classic gag. I just tickled your gooch.
We're playing footsies here. There's not a lot of leg room because we are in a tight studio room.
Yeah.
So Rick, the American, Ardith, and Dr. Bay, and Evie. This is like the A-team now. They managed to get into a car and speed away, and
running down
multiple
civilians. Yeah.
These poor brainwashed cursed people were just out for a time and then got caught up in this ridiculous
thing. They just got swept up. In the excitement.
And as they're speeding away down the road, some of the people had like made it onto this car. So the car is a convertible, right? So they're not like an enclosed space. So they're also just like all crammed into this very tiny car. So they're easily like almost being able to fall
Also,
out.
it's the 20s, so how fast do cars go?
20 kilometers an hour.
Right, like, they're not going that fast.
They're not going that fast.
They're gunning it, they're going 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're fighting these people off from grabbing them out of the moving car, right? Mm-hmm. But oh no, the final American.
Oh no.
Oh no. He's pulled out, and he grabs his gun and starts shooting, just in time for Imhotep to suck him dry. The car chase turns into a foot chase, because they crash the car. Classic. They are now out of options, and they are now essentially cornered by this horde of people, and Imhotep's like parts the people, like parting the sea, and comes in, and he's like, look, come with me, and this will all be fine. And Benny's doing, like, the translation, but Evie's, like, correcting his translation back to him.
Love that
so
for
funny.
her.
Take my hand and I will spare your friends. She chooses to go with Imhotep to save Rick and the remaining people.
Yeah, she's basically saying, like, die now or save me tomorrow.
Yes. And Rick protests, but she urges him to come save her before the ritual is complete. And Benny grabs the puzzle key box from John. Imhotep takes backsies. Kill them all. And
he's like, actually,
JK, kill them all. And Evie's like, no! But the remaining men find a sewer grate and sneak away.
Okay, but
except
no,
Dr.
Dr. Bade sacrifices himself,
Yeah.
but he didn't have to.
No.
They fully had enough time to all make it down that sewer grate.
Yeah.
It was like slow motion.
Yeah.
Rick's going, come on. He's like, no, I'll hold them off. And Rick's like, no, seriously,
There's like
come on.
there's
just
like 5
get
seconds
down.
away
There's
still.
lots of time. Anyway.
So flash to the middle of the desert. It's kind of like the next day-ish because it was in the middle of the night before. And Captain Winston is just drinking just a casual cup of tea in the middle of the desert. And Rick convinces him to have one last adventure to save Evie.
Yeah, basically by telling him, oh, you're definitely gonna die.
Yeah.
If you do this. And he's like, thank God I'm in.
Sign me up. So they use his plane to travel back to Hamunaptra, which would be far faster than any camel. And as they fly over the desert, a large sand tornado races right by them. And Captain Winston's like, oh, I've never seen one that big before. It's Imhotep, and he's using the most state-of-the-art travel for zombie mummies these days, just becoming a tornado. And as the tornado kind of like slows down, Evie and Benny like fall out of the tornado, and he turns back into a human. They see...
Did we just have sex?
I have sand everywhere. What does that mean? So they see, they like hear the old-timey plane above, and Evie goes, Rick! And Imhotep goes...
No, I think she goes, O'Connell.
Oh.
He's told her to call him Rick, but she still always calls him O'Connell.
Imhotep's like, fuck, I can't shake these guys. So he sends a massive wave of sand coming at them. And what's worse than a giant wave of sand coming at you? A giant wave of sand with a face looking to chomp your butt. So the plane is consumed by the sand wave, and Evie used her wily woman ways to distract Imhotep by giving him an unwanted smooch. And he kind of like loses his concentration, and the sand wave happens to fall apart. And she's like, yes! And like looks off, and Imhotep gets pissed. But,
hey, you tricked me!
You tricked me, okay? That's not fair. But the plane still crashes. So the plane crashes over this ridge, and Rick, Ardith, and John make it out, but their friend Winston did not survive, so he finally got his wish. Ardith smartly grabs the machine gun off of the plane, just in time for the plane to get consumed by quicksand, which, by the way, I'm not entirely sure if that's legit. You're shaking your head now. But it's a movie. So the plane...
He would have wanted it this way.
He would have wanted it this way. The men start walking towards the city of the dead to save Evie. As Evie, Benny, and the mummy, they're like making their way deep into the catacombs of the tomb, Evie like looks at Benny, like locks eyes with him, and says, nasty little men like you will always get their comeuppance. Whoa. And Benny's like, oh, and she's like, always.
That's ice cold.
Ice cold. John, Rick, and Ardith make their way to the tomb and are like trying to figure out a way to disrupt the ritual without getting in too much harm's way. John fucking grabs one of the scarabs off the wall.
Okay, after everything that they have been through, after everything that they have seen, that greed, it's just
weasel.
It's insatiable.
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing.
And are you that much of a moron to
like,
go around fucking with shit?
That guy eaten from the inside out by scarabs, right?
So let's maybe not touch the scarabs. Of course, the scarab breaks out of its little shell and goes under John's skin, and Rick manages to carve it out of him, and then just like shoots the shit out of the beetle, which was overkill, and I loved it. So Imhotep is all about getting this ritual started because he has a plan to get his Anoxenamon love back.
It has been 3,000 years.
He is dying for a cuddle.
Yeah.
Little cuddle puddle. he needs some help though. He's realizing that Rick is a formidable foe, and regardless if the plane went down, he needs some support. So he finds his little golden priests, all mummified and whatnot, and they pop out of the wall like the damn Beatles did. And now he has his full ritual crew ready to go. As the trio, our heroes, A-Team, they make their way through the tunnels to the ritual area. They stumble upon the biggest fucking treasure room that you could barely even imagine. Like, it is wall-to-wall gold shit. I'm talking statues, plates, coins, rubies, jewels, you name it. Jonathan is shook because he's a greedy motherfucker like we have talked about, little weasel. And while they stare at all of the goodies, though, these priests bust through the floor, and it's like a little Thriller moment where they're like, and the priests are not immune to gunfire, and they are just shooting like crazy at them. And there are a lot of them though. So they have to move quick to get back to get to the statue of Horus to get the book and then go to the ritual to stop it. Benny also finds the treasure room and goes, yeah, I'm gonna get paid now. So he starts filling these bags up, basically kind of like shuttling these bags in and out of the tomb to like hook up onto some camels.
Yeah, he's no longer worried about helping out the mummy. He's got it. At this point, I'm getting mine, I'm getting out of here.
Exactly. So back in the ritual room, Evie is tied up and lying beside her mummified BFF, and the real Anaxanamun is
put
there.
Your life force in here.
Yeah. And all it's gonna take is a little stabby stab and a little chanting. So Imhotep prepares the Book of the Dead to start the ritual. And all the while this is happening, so it's kind of like a cut to from ritual back to the men. So in order to buy them time, Artis sacrifices himself, hat off and everything, full locks a-flowing.
He looks really good.
And he's got the machine gun, and he's just tearing these mummies down, but he, like, rushes this hallway where they're coming to approach them while the others dig up the book. Oh, I have the book's name. It's called The Book of Amun-Ra, the Golden Book, to save Evie. And as Ardith is like, go, leave without me, Rick tosses some dynamite down the hall, like, okay. But I get it. Evie is the only thing that matters right now. Flash back to the ritual site where Imhotep is raising the soul of his lover to put back in her body.
So romantic.
And surprise, she's there. She's fully locked and loaded. Imhotep is now in the mummy body. Imhotep must kill Evie to complete the ritual. So there's this big ass dagger, and he's gonna go stabby stab stab. Jonathan runs in with the book now of Amun-Ra and yells at Evie for the key.
I don't know what to do with it. I don't know.
Imhotep is now distracted, and Rick comes to kick some fucking ass. Rick and Evie try to get away, but are stopped now by another set of mummies who are like
they're like kind of the guards.
Military guard.
Yeah.
So they've got some serious hardware.
Jonathan has to say one word to make them fight for them instead of for the mummy.
But he doesn't know how to read it.
How.
So Rick is now facing off this extra souped up set of mummies. Evie is now facing off Anaxanamun, and Jonathan just has to read a fucking book. And so the best part is that he's like yelling at Evie while she's fighting for her life.
She's like, Jonathan, for once in your life, just do something. Figure it out.
She's yelling translations back at him while being choked out by a mummy. And so Evie,
she's the one who constantly has to justify herself.
Jonathan manages to spit out the right words, and all of the army mummies stop in their tracks, just as about they're like to kill Rick.
The pandemonium is basically happening.
Yeah.
The mummy's trying to control the guard mummies. They're not listening to him anymore.
Okay, so Jonathan reads from the book, right, and now has control of the mummies, and he yells at them to kill Anaxanamun. Imhotep is not happy. He's like this close to fulfilling his ultimate love dream.
I did not wait 3,000 years to have
shits.
this little prick ruin my plans.
Yeah. It's
like, excuse?
It is quite heartbreaking, actually, to think about it.
Bro.
And Rick cuts his arm
That's what
off.
I'm saying. They did that to him. He was sleeping. He was dead.
And now that he's awake, he's like, okay, now that I'm awake, I'm gonna get my shit back, and
you guys are gonna fuck this up again? Like, this is star-crossed lovers, a love for the ages.
ruined.
Older than time. No, they cannot ruin this love.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just like,
you're upset about
get
it.
out of there then. Anyway.
Rick cuts off the Imhotep's arm, and he just puts it back on. No biggie.
Good for him.
And Evie and Jonathan are reading from the Golden Book to send the mummy back to his cursed afterlife. So just as Evie is finishing the script, a spooky ghost chariot comes out of nowhere and takes Imhotep's soul essence away from him. And he doesn't back down, though. Rick's just like, oh, I thought this would stop him. As Imhotep is like, well, that was weird. I'm going to still be on my mission. He approaches Rick, and Rick stabs him. It's not the fact that the chariot was going to kill him. They made him mortal.
So Rick just stabbed a dude.
Yeah. Imhotep, like, totally defeated. Now I feel so bad for him because he's just like,
it's heartbreaking.
Fuck. Falls back into a dark pool of souls. And he says it for one more time, death is only the beginning. So let's have a moment for him.
I wish someone loved me that much. Like, he loves her so much. Yeah, it's really sad if you think about it.
It is a love that spanned thousands of years, and his heart did not waver once.
And like you said, like, oh, these little shits defeating me. Like, no. And that's what he's saying in his final moments. Like, you have not defeated me. They could not defeat me. Nothing will defeat me. We will be together. What bums me out too is like, so he's still got to be cursed? Like, I mean, can we forgive him at this point? Like,
oh, the underworld is ruthless.
Yeah.
They have to follow the curse to a T. As he's, being defeated, we cut back to Benny still carrying out these bags and bags and bags of treasure. And he's exhausted because he has been carrying and toting a lot of this treasure back and forth. So he sets these bags down on like a stone jut out kind of thing. But again,
that's very obviously, it's very obviously a fucking lever. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't look at a doorknob and go,
this is a trap.
Yeah. This is going to do something. So he activates a trap. So every single wall is now closing in. And the doors are being shut. The ceiling is coming closer to the floor. There's a lot about this movie that I don't like taps into my like feeling, but the walls coming in is ultimately claustrophobia supreme.
This enclosure.
Yeah, that feeling of like lack of oxygen too. Okay. So time is now fucking running out even more. Rick, Evie, and Jonathan are racing to get out of the tomb with, Benny like chasing after them and yelling at them, help me, help me, help me. And even after all of this, Rick is like, I'm not going to leave you in there, man. I will try and help you get out.
He tries to save him.
But, it's a matter of like milliseconds at this point, and Benny's now stuck in the massive treasure room. And the walls and the ceilings are still closing in. Just as he's realizing his fate, he is greeted by a wave of these hungry little beetles.
I'd rather get eaten alive by a bajillion beetles than have to sit in a tomb and slowly run out of oxygen and starve to death.
Oh,
right? It's a matter of moments versus a matter of potentially weeks.
Yeah. Ooh. And as the torchlight goes out, we hear the crunch of the beetles eating at the all-you-can-eat Benny buffet. A little sneaky snack in the night. They're like, ooh, we've been so hungry for 3,000 years. Now we've had 4 people now? So the trio make it out and they collapse into each other's arms. Surprise! Ardith.
He made it.
He made it out.
What a hero.
He is a true hero.
And he thanks them. Which is bro.
Do you thank someone for cleaning up the mess they made?
Yeah, and also completely destroying it.
Yeah.
The city has crumbled.
Yeah.
Behind them now. It's completely destroyed.
Yeah. I think he's just
and he's
I need to go home.
Thank you for saving us from this curse. It's he's like, will you get the fuck out of here now, please? Do you get it? Do you guys get it
he
now?
He has to coddle them like children. Thank you for cleaning up your mess. You can go off now and play around, but we've got to clean some stuff.
We've learned our lesson about consequences.
Yeah.
Great.
None of them did. Jonathan cracks a joke that they're leaving empty-handed, and Rick quips that they're not going entirely home empty-handed.
His hands are gonna be full.
Oh, they're so full. And him and Evie just smooch it out.
And also, they ride away together on one camel.
Yeah.
And the way that he is thrusting into her on this camel. Whoa.
They're gonna fuck, and it's gonna be great.
It's like, I'm afraid for Jonathan at this point. Like, it's still his sister.
And some shady fucking sexy shit is going down on this camel on the way home.
There's only 3 of them.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we see our adventuring heroes walk off into the sunset, which is a fact. The sun does set. Mm-hmm. And the camels happen to be decked out in Benny's treasure bags.
I did not notice that.
You didn't?
No. I was otherwise...
You were preoccupied.
I was preoccupied, yeah. I was busy.
Fanning herself with that camel thrusting. So that is the end of the 1999 action historical fiction
adventure.
Classic, The Mummy. Oh.
Yeah.
So, what did you think?
I mean, I loved it. Of course, yeah. I'm glad that we watched it in this context too, because like I said, it's not one that would have been in my hat. It is one that I've seen. I enjoy it. I've watched it. I think the last time I watched it was like a year ago. You know what I mean? Like, it's one that definitely comes back on. But I have never understood the plot so thoroughly as I do now.
Excellent.
And it just, yeah.
Educational.
So I appreciated getting to watch it in this way.
Absolutely. It's funny, like we kind of, allude to this a couple times, that when the scriptwriter has to be in the movie with such a different lens of trying to capture everything possible to, obviously share here and discuss, like, you pick up on things that you didn't necessarily notice before, or when we come and discuss it, being like, oh, that's a different take on that.
Like, literally, like I said, last night I watched it and I felt like I finally had a full understanding. Yeah. And then as soon as we sat down, I'm like, oh, I still wasn't getting it.
Totally.
So that's really great, yeah.
Who's your favorite character?
Imhotep. The Mummy.
He was driven by love.
I love him. Yeah. And it's really tragic. I think his story is so tragic. And I just think that he's so powerful and his love is so strong and nothing will defeat it. No. And I think that's really beautiful. So, I was definitely rooting for him, and
Team Mummy.
And I was a little sad at the end, but yeah, he was my favorite character for sure.
Nice. I don't really know who my favorite character is. I think there'll always be a soft spot in my heart for Evie. I think because she was kind of like this, a more complex female character in some ways, but also incredibly tropey in others.
Well, we've talked about this before a lot, and especially, like, I think it's getting a lot better now, but for us as children, like, getting to see a female character that you could actually, like, look up to in some way, or feel good about, or feel represented by, or feel like you wanted to aspire to be.
Yeah.
Like, it was tiny crumbs that you would usually get. So
exactly.
I think, super tropey in a lot of ways, but also like a pretty great character for us at that age to be like,
and I think she was like complex in the sense of like feminine, but also incredibly, bold in some ways. But after rewatching it this time, I really appreciated the fact that she chose not to run away. She chose to clean up her mess, perhaps face consequences, and she was brave in the sense of like, yeah, I'll go with him. Now you do your job, I'll do mine. So I think Evie is one of my favorite characters of this, as well as the cats.
She learned a lot.
She did.
And I think you're right too, it is her story.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's Imhotep's story, but yeah, it's her story.
Yes, and my question for you, and I think we didn't talk about this earlier, but what did you think of the sequel?
I can't even remember it.
They have a kid. The little boy?
I don't know. I'm sure I've seen it. I don't know. Dude.
Fair.
Yeah. I could barely keep track of this one.
We're gonna watch the second one, because Ardix does come back.
He's,
yeah. And like a broody, I am a secret protector of the ages kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like deep ancient knowledge kind of way. Yeah. But also strong.
And vulnerable?
Yeah.
How shall we rate this movie? Okay, first of all, will you watch it again?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Secondly, how shall we rate this? How many?
I'm thinking like on a scale of like by panic, like, out of 0 to 100, like your radar of like how.
Yeah, because this movie is a sexual awakening for many different folks, but in particular perhaps the bi or the pan or
that confusion though.
It's like, oh, you're really pretty. Oh, you're really pretty.
I want to be you, but I also want to kiss you, but I'm also scared of you, but I also, yeah, for sure.
DEFCON 5 by panic out the window. Like, I had, even while watching this, I was like, gosh, she's so fucking beautiful and smart.
Yeah.
And like, accountable. And then there's Rick, who's like, got that like 90s boy band, Backstreet Boy hairstyle with the fringe.
I want to be her, I want to be friends with her, and I also want to marry her. What is happening? Yeah.
And Brendan Fraser can join.
Holy shit.
The three of us.
Yeah, same.
Can I?
Yeah. Just put her feet up on my knee. Same. My palms are sweaty. My cheeks are rosy.
Mom spaghetti.
I'm giving sidelong glances here and there, wondering if anyone notices.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm panicked very much, for sure.
I think The Mummy actually was one of those movies that you and I connected. And
things are awake.
We both related so hard to this, like, oh my god, what does this mean about me?
What does this mean?
And
things have awakened,
They're awoken.
Mm-hmm.
They have been resurrected.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Mm-hmm.
So, we are very just like happy to share this movie with you.
It was so fun.
Thank you for coming along. I love this idea of us getting to share our growing friendship with all of you.
Having a blast.
Yeah.
I know I was talking to my therapist about it the other day, cause she was asking me like, what are things that make you feel like yourself and like energized? And I was talking about this. Or she had brought it, she's like, maybe your podcast does that? And I was like, yeah, when I get to just stare into Courtney's eyes for 2 hours, just
talk about the most
like, we literally,
thing.
like, just really sitting, like, 1 foot away from each other and staring into each other's eyes for 2 hours, like, it gives me life. Yeah, for sure. So, yeah,
and
it's
I love
really good
to hear, like, your life story as how it pertains to this time capsule of a moment of a movie. I love that.
And I've said this to people too when they kind of ask about it, is that like a good way to describe what happens here is that we could be friends for 15 years and never hear these stories.
Right?
Yeah. The things, the minutia, like those little intimate things that have come up it's so interesting. Yeah. Like these are stories I would never tell or
it's
think
hard to
of.
like bust it out in the middle of like, I don't know, what else do we do? We do errands and shit, but so please feel free to like and subscribe, leave a review. Yeah, it really helps out the pod.
Let us know, friends. Would you rather be eaten alive by scarabs or slowly die of starvation in a tomb?
With a broken heart. Let's add that. Yeah. Because there's a broken heart element to both. Yeah. And thank you for coming along. And straight up, the next episode is going to be
the final
season
one,
finale.
The season finale, the final one of season 1.
And Dakota already told me the one she's doing. Yeah. And I'm very excited to share.
Very different vibe.
Yes.
So joyful.
Also a little bit of a bi panic situation in that movie as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh.
What's happening?
What's happening?
New Friend Cinema on Instagram, on Facebook, on gmail.com.
Yeah,
reach out, follow, like, subscribe. As she said, we're everywhere, and we're in your closet right now.
Don't make any sudden moves. Be careful, the sun is rising.
Period.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. saying.
You're just saying that maybe this is ripping off of her face.
Maybe.
0 to hero.
Who can say?
Who'd have thought? Fuck, I love that movie. That's a great movie. Need to rewatch
He
that.
ran the underworld.
I will go most anywhere to find where I belong. Hell yeah. Okay. Back to the movie.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes.
I kind of like the sound of the scarabs.
You can just hear them. It's like a scurrying, right?
I don't usually like bug noises, but I think something about, cause they're kind of hard, right? Like that, that like.
Where are you going with this?
I just like the sound of it. It's like.
It's like a clicky clack, but also like a.
Yeah, it's more clicky. It's more clicky
clicky
clacky than like usual bug noises.
Do you like ASMR then?
No.
Oh, right. You hate.
I hate
ears.
ASMR.
Yeah, you don't like people coming in your ears either.
Stay the fuck away from my ears. Yeah,
noted.
But yeah, I was just watching. I was like, I like that.
That's not bad.
I could fall asleep to that. No, I'm just saying, compared to how disgusted I usually am, I was like, this is all right.
I thought you were giving a toot. Just a little like,
no, I would never like push it out like that in front of you. That's disgusting.
I think farts are genuinely one of the most hilarious, ridiculous things.
This is where we differ.
I know, it's body stuff. Whereas I think farts are the funniest fucking thing.
Very serious when it comes to farts. Ever since I was a kid, I have a hard time saying the word fart.
Is it a toot?
I call it a toot. When I was a kid, I had a serious sit down with my family and I asked them to stop calling it fart.
You had a serious sit down?
And I asked them to replace it with fluff.
Oh!
And to this day, sometimes people in my family call it a fluff, yeah.
Oh, out of respect.
No, just like, I mean, it's been so long that it's literally a word for it now in my family.
Oh my god.
It's hard, I don't know, I don't know why. I know we all do it.
Sure. Toots are one thing. It's a little, and then farts are the ones that have like some meat to them, right?
Yeah, don't say that. But yeah. Please. Please respect me.
I will now forevermore say I have to fluff.
And I'll know what it means.
You'll know what it means. No one else will though, except everyone.
My mom and
listening to this podcast.
And everybody else.
Okay, where were we?
I know. Yeah. Talking about just that soft kid energy, right?
Oh yeah.